So the like beginning of this introduction right now that the like scientists right have started to like right now being near this like rainforest thing which used to be like the homeland of white there. The reason my I'm just talking about this particular bit of like of Edward Weevil because like my particular impression that Edward Weevil I think basically is like the some quite there like some looking like Edward Weevil even though like at the present would be definitely to live in like that homeland of white there definitely my different so like 100% stand and the Red Path going there, being present there right now. Ambassador will be prepared to meet Edward Weevil, and Ambassador chance will be like okay, uh, would be already having like an idea of like how like the character of that Edward Weevil is, and Ambassador chance will be right now planning on like totally tricking Edward Weevil to that using to chance of advantage to that, and Ambassador like. Most likely, what chance will be totally planning right now would be to like trick and use Edward Weevil to that has like a fight for like to have him fight like his forehead by follow and secretly and secretly follow and fight like his forehead by the flag. Sample looking like Shan Suga right now, that maybe that planning on hurting Edward we will to do exactly that. That's the scenario that end of the point. So like maybe can telling we will something along the lines of like like saying we will select this and maybe saying to give it that they will just was like the dying with of Whitebeard that Whitebeard has told the chance they along the lines of the maybe that kind of like a remote possibility that I'm also doing that chance to be like maybe along those lines like chance will be like we will just like the possibility that I'm for and that way like we will heading off to like spy and follow to the real follow and just to follow and fight that also had characters that cylinder scenario that I need so that like a chance to like all these deep paths on like what like the so had pirates are up to and everything. Definitely because of like science definitely badly wanting like to them with that on the fields definitely my person to much so definitely I was to bring like maybe like we will like and about the bring still we will lack mother would still be alive, especially in the impression that all women will be still alive. And about the next chance so they don't need freaking her as well somehow. That's the kind of thing. Maybe like providing her like giving her money and that way that maybe to this like to have we will like do the 5 on 4 cents. And basically you know the thing that way we will and just like mother heading off and sailing away from like the homeland of things to like fight like the prototype like the mission to let's fight the prototype like the scenario that I'm looking at the reimbursement right now. So like the thing I'm reimbursement right now it's about like shanks in like the place of like things like there like number shanks anything like Edward Weevil and then the bring chance like how easily send everything Weevil and going to be something along the lines of it like telling Weevil that they believe the straw hat fire like had fought alongside Whitebeard and like the forehead pirates and that they like the forehead pirates and Whitebeard have that like a strong bond of friendship between them and like so before like a chance to be lying to that region and along the lines and like a chance might support maybe along the lines of when Whitebeard had died like the three chance was something there and this the white maybe along the lines of like Whitebeard had died in like chance answer so like the final words of like Whitebeard to chance was to like basically to like always like take care of like the Straw Hat Pirates and always ensure that like the Straw Hat Pirates are remain protected and safe. So like basically sanctions telling like we were the resolutions and we were like doing that like the entire time would be along the line chance would be lying to like we will and chance saying that but right now something came up for them and basically that we have some issue or something to like take care of some sort of like an absence. So like in our place like put like we will like do like the whole stealthy follow and spy like the Straw Hat Pirate just so that like if they get into any trouble like this that and could like even that and so like to protect like his product perhaps if they get into any trouble and basically then more than that for like we will to like basically report that what Storehat is doing that what are they up to that basically so that like Shanks and the health pirates would like okay keep prepared and like the Storehat running doing it proper so that like Shanks and the spray would like face up only along the lines and that we keep Whitebeard word the promise that like Shanks have made to like Whitebeard. So like basically so like to maintain and keep up that promise like we will right now help Shanks to be along the line maybe about for instance will be tricking we will into getting we will into like stealthily follow and like fight on like so happen. It's like strange of the scenario that I'm just putting in offering. Also, like me, my impressions that like even though we will like used to be like kind of like a naive innocent and kind of like a completely kind of like a advanced, I think like we will still my impressions that like we will be exceptionally strong and we will still be having like exceptional strength. Like it'll be just that we will be like would be like the my impressions that like the downside of it would be like we will be so extremely innocent that like we will be only one extremely vulnerable to getting tricked. It's definitely my preference. So like that would be the precise reason as well for like we will select mother for this like would be like traveling around with like we will and always be present right beside we will to protect we will from such scenario. Definitely my take very impressive. Oh yes, so like definitely my very impression right now as for like master right now revealing how they have like very big chance in like the past like I was putting like this might have only happened once in like the past with the film with the impression and it might have like it might have only happened back in like Sans and Buggy were like the Roger Pirates and like it might have happened when like Buggy was not feeling well as like the Roger Pirates were like about to head off to like the island of Lamptail like they think at that point like Buggy not feeling well and Chance decided to like stay back with like look after Buggy like like it might have been back then that like so White Pirates as well it might have been constantly nearby during that time might have been like scenario. So like it might have been during then that time was like Marco might have dated it for chance as well as Buggy back then. It's definitely might have been very impressive right now. Okay, so like the film I was very impressed right now as for like for Yamato right now, even after like spending all those great number of years like totally without having any freedom that might change like still like even to the person like the Yamato still not getting her Yamato alone still not getting her freedom. But like her not being able to like go with like so her power solely due to like moment of and like the retain is being so extremely weak. Like my personal remembrances that like at least the scenario that I'm going to bring is like still like eventually like the recent years around when Yamato eventually ending up leaving like the land of and becoming like a permanent member of like so her past and finally Yamato that we're getting her freedom and being able to like explore like chase of gold like finally be able to like live the role of that Florence that's the word. It's like within the scenario that I'm looking and I'm looking that to like exactly happen precisely while but and that different only happening in coincidence like coincidence with like a moment of awakening this like float on pulse because like the remember the time when I'm sitting on this that like exactly like how like the ancient weapon Poseidon is like actually Chirahuchi like I'm going to bring like the case of like the ancient weapon Proton it would definitely be more than definitely in the reimbursement. So definitely I'm going to bring like eventually like the simple I'm going to bring like this for fire. Like even though they have right now left like the land of will definitely be eventually coming back to like the land of and that would like to be due to like maybe like them maybe it would be like them maybe pretty like the distant future like I'm looking like the roads like the chronicles that comes maybe like a Robin finding out about like that like the ancient weapons protons is actually moment of and like them realizing like the importance of like and basically Robin undergoing through Robin's like Robin undergoing like the through the point through one of it the point through Robin like the finding out that basically that like the ancient weapon proton is like actually moment of cake. So that because like it would be like the present day descendant of like the actual ancient weapon moment of cake might have been like the giant ancient ancestor moment of cake from like the world century. That might have been like the ancient weapon like on in like the world century. So like I was like in the person like that uh through that long line of descendant like if the person like the ancient weapon will be the big moment of cake definitely never friends and but like Robin through one of the bonds was like triggering this outfit like scenario that and the Oriental straw had oh like that with feeling realizing that these are being like an absolute extreme importance of like basically lowering the borders of like the land of Mano and that like the ancient weapon can only be awakened like only once like the borders of like, the land of Mano would be brought down and basically the true land of Mano would be like accessible. Would be along the lines of the through like the chronicles, one of like the chronicles eventually like the Prophet journey like and Robin figuring out and about something that the Prophet will turn back to like the land of Mano. And I'm going to bring like especially since like Lucy as well right now knows that like the sole reason for like Yamato not being able to like see their crew member solely due to like moment of chaos that like the returns being so extremely weak like I'm going to bring like Lucy definitely deciding and like it would be also extremely important for Luffy to like have like the land of Wano always safe, remain safe and protected. That especially after like Luffy and the Prophet Crew having fought so hard to like buy the freedom of like the land of Wano, like the land of Wano always remaining safe and protected would also be like an really high priority for Luffy and the Prophet Crew. So like I'm believing definitely eventually the front row in between like the journey eventually like the two totally taking that absolute U-turn and basically heading back to like the land of Wano and basically there like I'm believing at that point would be when like I'm doing the amounts will be like lowering like and the border of like the land of Mano and basically that way while accepting like and that is the rainwater like hiding like the free land of Mano from which will be definitely from the legendary like that way being accessible and basically while accessing and exploring that through land of Mano about like Momonosuke having his like finally having his like totem powers like getting awakened. He definitely knows and that at that point like I'm like oh Momonosuke getting like the major, extreme major power creators like the scenario that ended. Momonosuke being able to like control his like proton powers. Or like I was saying, like still Momonosuke would be getting access to the proton powers, but like Momonosuke might not have that perfect control over his like proton powers. Yet like Momonosuke still was getting access to his like proton powers, which would be like such exceptional power. So like at that point the film was the time definitely like and definitely there will be like definitely there will be a conflict thing like the through land of beneath the rainwater like usually there will definitely be a conflict and like a lot of that revelation about like the powers of the boson and everything about the like Robin like all of them figuring out as well like the scenario that I'm pushing with. And after that, once like the Sohet Pro would be like once again leaving from the land of definitely able to that it will be either like Yamato straight away at that point he will be finally feeling relieved that basically that basically finally with like Momonosuke having awakened Momonosuke on both by then like about like Yamato finally feeling relieved and confident that basically Momonosuke will be able to like protect like the land of Wano. And able to bring by then like the retainers and the spring like would be like training even harder and basically getting even stronger by then. It's definitely my like the retain finally like being aware of like that has been a responsible position that they are in that basically they have the task to like actually ensure the protection of like the land of Wano. Uh, so to achieve that, like they have to, like they have no other option but to like get into that, like they work hard, doesn't stop working hard, putting in all that effort until they end up getting a lot stronger, becoming a lot stronger. Will be along the lines of that absolute responsible feeling that I'm also bringing the returns will be having at that point, and also like a correction because like I had said, like basically the retainers doesn't have haki, but like it seems like the retainers in fact have haki power, like what I had impact on the return tax is definitely what I think. So like I'm looking still I'm looking right now in like the present the retainers party will be so extremely weak, it's definitely not different compared to Odin. So like even though Odin might have thought like the retainers and the thing like the retainers might not be like such quick learners or anything when it comes to like grasping like the absolute so essence and powers of like Haki. So like I'm looking like still even to the person like the retainers Haki will be like those things definitely member the members. So so like I'm looking that as well only effect. But like I was going like by the time in that future while like initially like the bonus of the land of mine would be like lower like by then like the returns would be like training extra hard and like would have reached themselves would have the returns themselves would have reached like serious levels of strength. And with like at that point with like moment of escape. And I was going at that point like the returns would be even stronger than moment of this at that point like scenario that I was doing. But like I'm remembering one like moment of care would be like awakening to like proton powers, like moment of this proton powers would be awakening, like moment of care strength, like okay, skyrocketing. And at that point, like I was yeah, it was only finally feeling confident in that, like the moment of the retention will finally able to like ensure the protection of like, the land final. And at that point, Yamato finally getting her freedom. Even after like the entirety of like the land of Mano will be has got the freedom, like even to the person like I'm also interested definitely Yamato alone has definitely not got the freedom and like definitely Yamato would be like definitely hiding that basically from like Momonosuke and the retainers because like Yamato would be totally having that fear that basically like if either Momonosuke or the retainers like he has realized that basically Yamato is not it's only like staying in like the land of Venus only because of them being like so extremely weak. Then like the thing like Yamato would be absolutely feeling deep down would having that fear that basically they would put Yamato and they would like totally like force Yamato to like leave Straw Hat Crew so that Yamato could finally have that freedom. So like I'm also like And that would definitely because of the concern that would definitely be like the last thing Yamato would be wanting, even though Yamato would be badly right now itself would be wanting for freedom and wanting to like join the Soviet. So which is of concern of like the reflection of the land of honestly. And those bring like still and those bring like in that distance future once like the border of the land of would be lowered and basically once like moment of shift Pluton power to be awakened and once like finally the product will be once again leaving from like the land of the Liam will bring like Yamato would be like leaving to like this water to it's like the scenario that I'm going to bring. And other than like two scenarios like possible scenario, the one possible scenario like Yamato still maybe deciding to like stay in like the land of or like Yamato straight away at that point like telling Momonosuke and all of them that the Yamato like leaving the plan to plan for or like I'm putting Yamato still or Yamato still feeling like as if like she still like to just uh, like increase like the strength of like the land of Pano just Yamato still deciding to like basically sacrifice her dreams and freedom to like permanently stay as like a soldier in like the land of Pano. But like I'm putting like that's like the other purpose scenario that I'm looking Yamato extremely reluctantly still trying to like stay, but then like Amazon use Luffy basically shouting out to like Momonosuke that basically we are taking Yamato and basically Luffy like totally pulling Yamato and taking him like extending his arms as Luffy would be like leaving and the Prohecto would be like leaving from the land of Mano like and Yamato that would be like reluctantly from the beach would be like waving her hands and like telling goodbye to like Luffy and the crew like at that point like Luffy straight away like giving Yamato that absolute and like all of them that absolute soft fight, but Luffy like straight away extending his arms and basically pulling Yamato into like the ship of this Prohector. It's like exactly like kind of like a parallel to how like Usopp was that's pulled into like the ship of the Prohector back during towards like the end of like any Soviet technically. So similar kind of like a scenario where like Luffy will like straight away pulling Yamato into like the Soviet like into like the thousand army and basically telling them goodbye at that point. Just like the scenario that I was in. At that point like Yamato finally being so extremely happy and full of joy and excited basically at that like finally she has got a career after all this great time number of years and after all this entire time like finally it was only at that point that Yamato will finally getting her freedom. It's definitely my theory and original for like the eventual scenario that I'm between and not. Okay, so like definitely was very interesting right now. So like Marco right now asking like Jinbei in front of Luffy, so like why was it that like trying to like save and protect Luffy, select the Marineford for like basically. So definitely because of like Marco totally knowing why, like the reasons definitely my reason. Marco deep down within knowing like the true reason why it's not just Marco and like the Whitebeard pair of like even though that was like according initially according to like the order of Whitebeard, like still that in the case of like people like Jinbei as well as like Crocodile and a bunch of other things like basically who are even enemies of like Luffy at one point, like them more even like basically trying to like protect Luffy and all that. Like I'm remembering actually like right now Marco asking Jinbei that question definitely Marco would be totally knowing first of all and the thing like Marco would be totally knowing about like the Sun Pirates. Definitely that like Jinbei was one part of like the Sun Pirate. So and basically about like the Sun God and everything that would like basically that might have like freed all the prisoners of like back during like the that might have freed all the prisoners back during like the World Century and basically like that my impression that like Sun Pirates like the name the Sun Pirates might have been like his a tiger even named his like pirate so like the Sun Pirate might have been slightly with like with the tiger like that absolute like that knowledge that his a tiger even had about like the sun god from like the World Century and basically due to like his titles like absolute respect that he had towards like the sun god, which is the best reason for like the tiger even starting like some fire to which like they were one part of. Definitely one of the and like Marco would be definitely known that basically Jinde was one part of like some fire. Definitely my and like I'm wondering like Marco and those things might have gained a lot of like knowledge from Whitebeard. That's definitely one of the friends. But it's just like and my other impression that like it is especially because of like Marco being like such close member of like the Whitebeard pair to Whitebeard, definitely understand. But Marco might have been like the closest, like Whitebeard, like even though Whitebeard might have been so extremely fond of kids, like and the still that Marco might have been that crew members for Whitebeard to whom like Whitebeard could like say any sort of secret or share any sort of secret or say anything, but and that staff who wouldn't like judge would be along the lines and like that protects remember that like right there might have felt the most comfortable with in like sharing anything certainly members. So like exactly like how like at one point it was revealed how like while they are talking to telling Marco about like basically the land of God about like the red line where like Marijo used where Marijo is right now like basically wants to go like the land of gods where like the Lunarians used to live along such lines like since like White Gear at one point has basically revealed to have told Marco like about like I was like White Beard might have revealed a lot of things to like Marco. Definitely remember the name. Among those things like the true like about Joy by as well, Campbell, like White Beard might have only at one point in like the past might have revealed to like Marcos, definitely remember the chance, like how Whitebeard might have learned of like Joy, it might be through perfectly through like a Roger, definitely remember the chance. Because like after making it towards like Lapel and after returning back from Lapel, like I'm looking like Whitebeard, as, after returning back, after like returning back from Lapel, like a Roger, after like the Royal Pirates, who like the great number of chronicles that might have been present in like Lapel, which contains that absolute knowledge as for like when compared to all the other chronicles across like the world, like the chronicles in last tale which is so strangely special because like the both chronicles in last tale will be containing that absolute true core information about like the actual details of like the things, uh, the most important things like from like the world centuries that we remember and that knowledge would be actually what like the one piece that knowledge contained with those within those chronicles in basically last tale which is what like that actually what One Piece would be definitely my preference. So even while Whitebeard during his death had basically shouted out that basically the One Piece is real. Like at that point, like what Whitebeard might have been like trying to say might have been that basically uh, might have been referring to might have been that like that information that knowledge contained in that chronicles within like Laughter like basically which like that knowledge is like Roger had gained through like Odin, which like Roger might have after his journey from like after might have like told about all that knowledge that he had gained to like Whitebeard actually, and like that knowledge might have been present within like Whitebeard. So like Ambassador like Whitebeard might have in such a manner how like Ambassador like Whitebeard might have through or that might have been how like Whitebeard might have been knowing about like Tolboy and about like the whole like land of the gods and the Lunarians and everything like all that information Ambassador might have been present uh, the land of gods and the Lunarians like all that like information might have been like information from like the voice in the release might have been present in like the great number of chronicles when last it definitely my brother impression. So definitely my brother impressions were like after like so that definitely my brother impressions were like after like the Roger Pirates returned from that day like I'm like Roger might have only met Whitebeard and like revealed all the knowledge he had gained from Laughter in like the chronicles from Laughter. Definitely my brother impression. At that point might have been when like Roger might have told Whitebeard about like the maybe like about like the core details about like the One Piece media or like the true villain behind hiding behind the scenes, like hiding behind like even like the Celestial Dragon, the existence of like the true villains that like totally unknown to like the rest of the world. Uh, Basically like about like the elders and the move. Maybe like another Mr. Roger might have maybe revealed to like Whitebeard back then, especially members of the and Roger might have also told Whitebeard about like the chronicles in like left uh, containing this information about like the Joy from like the Void Century who was like that absolute threat to even those Spindle or villain Timo and all of them like back in like the Void Century and as to like how Joy had died and basically that like after like 820 years like Joy will be making his return and basically so like I'm like at that point like I'm looking Roger might have told White that basically 20 years from now basically like Joy will be making his return will be along the line Roger might have revealed to like Whitebeard, especially like because like definitely since like Roger was like about to die, like I'm even back then like after like return from last like definitely during that time like Roger was like sick and was like about to die. Like Roger might have wanted to like share all that knowledge to like someone. So definitely Whitebeard, especially since like Whitebeard is like access it's like the second strongest. Even back then Whitebeard might have been like the second strongest after like Roger. So like since like Whitebeard has like a lot of importance in that world and just like Whitebeard is so close might have been definitely so close to like Roger definitely like to put all that information that Roger has gained, that is like Roger was about to die, like to use like and like Roger might have revealed all that to reflect that one reflect that foreign list might have been like white beard, definitely I'm the so like I was like that might be the point that the white beard might have learned of like the One Piece, actually learned like knowledge about like the One Piece, which is my put impression. So like I'm going to like Roger at that point might have told white beard that basically that like Roger like about to get married and basically that like Roger wants his son to be like the next Joy Boy. Might have been what Roger might have told like white beard at that point is definitely my put so like then like a Roger might have with a much delay or like a Roger might have found like what and like through like the details in like the chronicles and after like it might have been said that basically that like the return of Joy Boy would be happening through like a person with like the middle initial D initial in the name. So definitely might have been also been written in like the chronicles in lab tale definitely the with like I'm the might be the reason for like I'm the like Roger might have search for that absolute perfect person with that very initial in her name for like Roger to marry. And that would be how like Roger might have found like Spartacus the rope and in that marriage of like Roger and Spartacus the rope like definitely Whitebeard might have been present in that marriage. Might have sort of for that marriage is definitely memorable. So like my doctor impression that like Roger might have thought they had that like absolute kind of like a selfish kind of like an extreme pride of like basically since like Roger wasn't and I was thinking like it might have been once like Roger might have been like the gain the information of like the knowledge of like the contained in like the like foreign within like laughter that like Roger might have seen until that point might have thought that he is like the strongest in like the world, like the Roger Pirates are like strongest in like the world. Like he might have seriously got humbled once he found out about Joy Boy from like the world century to single-handedly basically like far stronger and all that like that knowledge like Roger might have gained through like the Chronicles and Laughter and that as well might have been like a huge factor in like the Roger Pirates like totally laughing so much in like Laughter because like at that point they might have totally gotten humbled for sudden to like the point of like them uh, making feeling as so silly in when compared to a single Joy Boy from like the world century might have been also might be the so like I was like Roger might have had that disappointment in that him not being like that return of that Joy Boy, like basically that like Roger wasn't able to be Joy Boy, like to be like the return of Joy Boy. So like I was wondering like Roger might have decided had this will just like Roger might have wanted to like basically pass on to his son. So basically that will of Roger to like basically to be Joy Boy and basically to like free like the world from and basically to return the world back to how it was during like the world century during that while Joy Boy was like alive and basically all that like basically this desirable goal might have been like the will of like Roger which like Roger might have decided to like have a child and basically pass on to his child. Also, the film is very impressive that it's sitting on the schedule that like in like the chronicles and after it might have been also revealed that basically like might have been also said that basically like all the people with like the middle initial things in like their name are all descendants of like the Joy Boy from like the world century. Might have been also gained record and it would be and that it would be one among them that would be in like 820 years would be like returning as like Joy Boy to like basically like achieve like the will of Joy Boy. Also, the fundamental repercussions were like after like Roger had his son like Spartacus sleep age like so then like when Roger was like basically captured and the person like basically at that point like Roger probably assigning like to like basically look after these like I'm considering that even back then like Roger might have been like definitely absolutely justified to like definitely have Ace by that also without like Ace like Roger might have been totally seeing like Ace as like the as that kind of age would be eventually in 20 years would be like turning into like would be becoming like the turn of joy by and basically would be freeing like the world from him and all that might have been in like Roger's mind even back then while assigning a while like telling Roger Garth to like look after is definitely what might have happened to him and Jameson. And the sole reason that Roger might have asked Garth to like look after Ace instead of like Whitebeard might have been solely due to like Whitebeard being a pirate and hence like basically Roger might have totally felt that basically like there will be like more of like a stealthy um, stealth for like taste like taste and taste will be like a lot more safer growing up with like dark than Whitebeard might have been what Roger might have felt. So like I'm like until Ace grows up to be strong enough to like basically look after himself, like basically that Roger might have had that absolute concern towards like Ace, like growing up in like a protected with that absolute safe and protected environment might have been like Roger's like concern and intent, especially when the prince. And maybe this might be the reason for like Roger like basically giving Ace to like telling Scar to like the dark way. So definitely might have very important. So like my very impression that like once like Whitebeard might have found out that basically Roger has basically got captured by like the Navy. Like at that point, like I'm thinking like Whitebeard might have been like desperate to find out where exactly Ace is. So Whitebeard might have not been even aware of like job looking after like deciding to like look after like or the assigning job to like take care of these. So like I'm looking like why there might have been genuinely concerned for like these and basically might have desperately even search for these and like why there might have genuinely wanted to like protect these and basically like for like until Ace becomes like a joy boy like and all that like why there might have maybe definitely had that genuine definitely one of the primary thing. And like I'm looking with like Roger stuff and like with the time passing, like I'm looking like at that point in like the future eventually once like Ace forms its own fire through and basically once like Ace had ran into like Whitebeard, like at that point on seeing Ace like I'm looking like by when Ace had challenged Whitebeard back then, like I'm looking like Whitebeard might not only seen like that absolute determined eyes of like Roger in Ace of Ice back then. It's definitely one of the languages. So like I'm looking like I think like in so much of the mentions that maybe like Whitebeard after like fighting and defeating Ace, like Whitebeard might have only asked Ace as to like what Ace's name was. And then like at that point Ace might have told Whitebeard that like it was kind of the Ace. So like hearing like the name for kind of and like the dating issue. Like I'm looking like Whitebeard, like it might have been like a confirmation instantly for like Whitebeard that basically Ace is in fact like that son of like Aroda. So this might be like that the main reason for like Whitebeard deciding to like wanting like Ace to be part of like the Whitebeard pirates so that like Whitebeard to like totally protect uh, Ace and basically like give Ace all that like necessary training so that like basically by the time it will be like in 20 years like Ace will like properly turn into like Joy Boy and basically will be able to like free and save the world and all that like might have been the intent that like Whitebeard back then might have taken in aid to like the Whitebeard pirates but never for interest. So like and then those like Whitebeard might have told the like about like if she and then number like even like exactly like how Roger might have only believed like and then Whitebeard or like Roger like Whitebeard as well might have only believed that like Ace would definitely be like the one to basically uh, basically that to be like the next choice, but might have been like what Whitebeard might have strongly believed. And so, like even by Ace, like eventually after spending time in like the Whitebeard pairs, like eventually as like Ace grew so fond of Whitebeard and Ace bond was like so determined to ensure that Whitebeard becomes like the king of like the pirates. Like even at that point, like while Ace would be like saying that Ace would still like the next time Whitebeard might have seen that determined eyes of Roger in case might have been done like case might have told like Whitebeard as well as like the interpreted Whitebeard fire that is won't stop until like it's that like he would definitely ensure that basically to make Whitebeard like the king of the fire. It's definitely another thing. But still I was wondering like even then like I was looking like both Whitebeard as well as Marco might have been totally genuinely believing that basically that even though Ace is like saying all this like it would be definitely Ace that would be eventually in like by the time that 20 years time period would be over like by then like it would be potentially at that point it would be Ace that would be ending up being fast surpassing Whitebeard in strength and like becoming like the return of like Joy Boy and basically saving the world and praying that the world will be of like Marco as well as Whitebeard might have been believing that entire time until like eventually like the whole war in Marineford like and like once like during like the war in Marineford like and like it might have like the next times Whitebeard might have seen that absolute determined eyes of Roger after that might have been in like Luffy's eyes when like Luffy had basically like boldly and courageously talked back to like Whitebeard about like something along the lines of like cases like his brother and his about like Luffy want to like save with his Like basically when Luffy had shouted back to Whitebeard with like without any fear and that absolute determined eyes. Like at that point I was wondering Whitebeard might have been like the next time Whitebeard might have noticed like the determined eyes of like about them in Luffy, definitely remember the chance. Like this might have been like a pivotal main factor like eventually Whitebeard like basically telling like the Whitebeard pirate to like kill that entire backup to like Luffy to like basically uh, definitely my different impressions. Because since like that Roger is like was in fact like an achiever, like basically since like Roger was like the only pirate to like basically to like find like the one thing like there might have been like seeing that same determined eyes of Roger in Luffy like might have been what might have happened like but that might have given Whitebeard that absolute hope because like even while Whitebeard was so definitely strong and even while like the Whitebeard pirates like the major out of the entire the Whitebeard pirates would be like stronger than Luffy, far stronger than Luffy even back then during like the war in Marineford. Like still a person like Whitebeard still might have seen that, seeing everything Luffy was doing, like Whitebeard might have been more and more getting that surety of a feeling that basically, that unlike all of them, that basically Luffy was like basically determined to the extent of like going to any extent to like basically save like basically that like Whitebeard, what Whitebeard might have only been into field might have been that superiority in like that determination of Luffy when compared to even like the Whitebeard pirates, certainly like the represent. So like also like might have been like an absolute and this might have been something that Roger as well might have already had. That superiority in that determination emotion of like determination, especially might have the so like I'm saying like so Whitebeard might have genuinely believed in Luffy that basically no matter like so because like I'm saying like Whitebeard actually might have then while Whitebeard like had basically like entered into like the war and Marineford like at that point felt like Whitebeard might have been determined to like basically to basically even sacrifice his life if it would mean that like it would save his definitely my preparation. But seeing Luffy like I was like yes, Whitebeard might have not had as much of like even though Whitebeard like he was determined to like save is like still that like that confidence of like definitely Whitebeard being able to like save is like ambassador like that ambassador like that hope like basically Whitebeard like that had until like seeing basically like ambassador like that hope that Whitebeard had of like the possibility of like him being able to like save is that might have increased tenfold after like seeing the determination of the in Luffy's eyes especially my personal memories. So this as well collectively might have been like a huge factor in like basically Whitebeard telling like his like Whitebeard parents to like give that absolute backup to like Luffy, seeing that absolute determination and like that never ending desire to like never determination to like never give up and basically seeing all that like I'm like this might be the reason for like the Whitebeard parents like basically like for like the Whitehead Paris legacy, initially during that absolute backup and protection, protecting Luffy all throughout like the war in the before initially before it is that it's definitely one of the remission. But like in the case of Crocodile and the like it might have been like even Crocodile like basically like actually protecting Luffy like in the war in Marineford. That definitely be would be totally due to like Luffy possibly having earned for like respect. Especially my brother Emerson. It might have been like very few that characters might have earned crocodile the kind of respect and I was like even Koby after like defeating crocodile in like Alabasta might have not earned like crocodile respect at all. But like it might have been during like the war in Marineford. Seeing how much like Luffy was like that absolute superior determination of like Luffy to save is like basically that superiority, even though crocodile might have had definitely would be having its own goals in life, like basically crocodile might have during that war in Marineford might have recognized that superiority in like Luffy's like level of determination when even compared to crocodile. And this would be like the main reason for like crocodiles like protecting Luffy in like the war in Marineford, especially my the end. And my consider impressions that like even while Luffy was like in with that superiority in determination, while Luffy was like struggling and trying to like make it towards peace, and even after like Luffy had made it towards peace, and even after like Luffy had basically freed Ace from like the hands of like situation, like even then like like Whitebeard as well as like Marco might have been still even at that point might have been totally believing that like that it still is that's going to be like the that's going to be in 20 years, that's going to be like the return of Joy Boy, which is the prejudice is might have been what they might have all believed at the beginning of the invention. But like I'm looking like one like and definitely but like that as well would be like an absolute validation as well. Like Lucy actually like giving that whole backup of backup of like the white bear virus to like Lucy and like basically that's basically resulting in like Lucy actually still being able to like basically free like Ace from like the hands of like that might have been that absolute confirmation of like a validation for like Whitebeard uh, and Whitebeard that basically that determination that like of like Roger that like Whitebeard might have only felt in like Lucy's eyes in like the beginning of the war like basically that was like true. So like I'm like even though Whitebeard like Roger obviously might have only told Whitebeard about like having the son like and like even though Whitebeard might have been confused like still at that point like Whitebeard might have like definitely like firmly believed that even though Whitebeard doesn't know how like still that Lucy would genuinely be Ace's like own brother would be along the line Whitebeard might have believed at that point certainly not only Whitebeard but Mark Worthwell might have believed at that point certainly my certainty understood. Yet like them both might have been still at that point as well believing that like Ace would be like the return of that Joy would be especially Ace certainly my good. So like many of the impressions that basically when like Lucy had been shown up to like the war and Marine Corps, like basically the fact that like Whitebeard as well as like Marco even not even taking a while to like even like finding basically kind of like strange like basically and all that would be slowly to like most likely it's like even White having spent this like entire time in like the Whitebeard pirates might have never not even told neither Whitebeard or Marco or like any of like the Whitebeard pirates about like he's having a brother by the name Lucy. It's definitely one of the name. But this as well would it will be through that Lucy's action that like Ambassador like Lucy might have earned the spot of like being able to brother within like both Marco as well as like Whitebeard as well as like the remaining of like the Whitebeard pirates like might definitely might have the reaction. Correct. You know, the Korean version that like once Ace had died, like the moment Ace died in like the war in Marineford, like like even more than the remaining Whitebeard part, like the big even bigger shock might have been for like Marco and Whitebeard, definitely not the Korean. So like it might have been Marco as well as like Whitebeard alone that might have been that even at that point might have been like the only two people at that point that might have been firmly believe that Ace would be like the return of Joy Boy looking through Ace. So that just like Ace that like I'm looking like at that point like I'm looking like even more than ever like them like both Marco as well as like White they might have thoroughly believed that they believe Lucy is like actually like Ace is like philosopher related and philosophy around the night even though they might have not known how that they might have firmly believed that and basically that like since Ace has died like basically and since like the Poneglyphs had since like Roger had told them that really like Joyper would be through the Poneglyphs that really that like through like the one gift that really that Joker will be making this return in like 20 years. Like certainly Whitebeard as well as Master might have firmly believed in that. And basically so was like it's that like they might have both like looks like the moment Ace had died like I'm just saying like the it might have been like an instant shocking of revelation for like both Whitebeard as well as Marco that basically that like the turn of Joy Boy won't be through Ace but would be through Luffy. That Luffy would be like the it would be how that Joy Boy would be usually making his return in like 20 years. Like that shocking realization might have happened to like both Whitebeard and Marco at that point like that Ace had died. Might have been what might have happened to remember. So this might be the reason for like straight away like Marco protecting Luffy from like the extremely vulnerable and like traumatic Luffy, with like him seeing like his guy right before him like basically like Marco straight away rushing into like protect Luffy. And Marco risking his life by like actually like defending someone as from a place or as like a kind just to like save Luffy like definitely if it is precisely due to like Marco at that point strongly believing that like it's not Dave that it's like Luffy that's going to be like some kind of like Joker and like I was referring like at that point, like basically like I was referring to me the precise reason for like Marco even like saying all this dialogue that like it will really discourage to like the Whitebeard pirates if they don't protect Luffy. Because like I was referring this entire time while if according to my documentary, I'm this entire time while Ace might have been striving and desperately like putting in all the hard work to like make Whitebeard like the king of the pirate. Like this entire time, Whitebeard as well as Marco might have been like putting in like all that effort to like give all that necessary support and everything for Ace so that like Ace could like return to be like so that Ace could be like the return of Broadway. So like with Ace dying, like them all instantly might have realized that like Luffy is like his true. It wasn't Ace, but like it's going to be Luffy that will be through which like the return of Broadway would be happening. So like I'm like at that point like for like Whitebeard as well as Marco, it might have been more important than ever to like ensure that basically Luffy survives, that Luffy is able to like escape from like the Warren Marine Corps and like that's definitely what might have happened, especially with the Empire. So, like, but my very impression that like in Jinbe's case, like I'm looking like the history of like the world century might have been passed down so much. Like basically, like Imo and like the world government were like totally might have been totally focused on like basically erasing all evidence connected to like the world century and world and everything on the surface. Like I'm looking since like Fishman Island was like just like beneath like the surface under like the sea, like I'm looking like the history connecting to like joy by like everything that might have been like that stories of like the voice century might have totally passed down through generation and generation might have totally like the even more greater detail might have been passed down all through like the entire phase of the 800 years and might have like even reached like which a tiger as well as Jimbe and all of them. It's definitely never famous about like the sun god. Like they might have like the fisherman back in like void century might have got boy as like the sun god and basically who would like free all the prisoners and everything is definitely never the right. So like about like the sun god it might have been said that basically the sun god where like the straw hat is definitely and free service personal. So definitely what might have been said is also definitely never the right. So like I'm looking back in like Impel Down when Luffy had basically showed up with like the straw hats. Basically, at that point, like Jinbei might have been able to like sense that basically like the possibility of like Luffy maybe like might have been able to like sense like he might have only got a feeling like he might have been so not extremely sure or anything, but like he might have got that like kind of like a feeling of like the possibility that this really reflects Jinbei being like important and like this person like this mysterious person that's like straw hat showing up like really Jinbei might have only felt that like the kind of the possibility of like living in the possibly be like the concern of like joy boy. And then also like even in gym as well, them as well maybe like might be I just definitely my problem is like I'm looking like with like Luffy freeing in the like and I'm looking it might have been like seeing everything Luffy was doing in like in down to like save Ace. And on top of that, like seeing everything Luffy do, like all the extremes to the extremes that Luffy had went when compared to had friends who like basically save Ace in like the war and war. Like at that point, I was like to free like an innocent person, like basically exactly like how Joy Boy in like the Void Century, like the stories about like the Joy Boy from the Void Century that they might have heard that might have been that like Joy Boy as well from the Void Century would go to like any extremes and he will be willing to like risk his life to like basically to save like the innocent people and all that like really. So like seeing that Luffy's like the extreme that Luffy had gone through both in like England Down as well as in like in Marineford, the war in Marineford to like save the handcuff and in person case like basically that might have been like that absolute confirmation more than ever for Jinbei that like Luffy is in fact like the Luffy is eventually going to be ending up being like the return of like Joy Boy and you'll be like freeing like the freeing and saving the world. So definitely might look very impressive. So like Jinbei would be like totally knowing this and I'm looking very so like definitely might look very impressive that like during like Whitebeard's death, like basically the moment of like Whitebeard's death, like the final words of Whitebeard being that like the one sees is a career. Like the best reason for like Whitebeard even saying that would be like through Whitebeard having recognized that possibly by then towards the end of like Whitebeard's life, like even though Whitebeard was like in a situation where like just like Richard Gates had died as well as like Whitebeard is like about to die as well. Still at that very last moment as well, Whitebeard might have only realized that basically through Luffy like the definitely like that kind of joy boy would be like living on through Luffy. That basically Luffy would be like ending up changing like the world and basically everything that basically so like basically since like in 820 years, like Georgia will be making his return. That might have definitely been written in like the chronicles in Lapdale, and that knowledge like the chronicles in Lapdale, according to my interpretation, would be most likely what like the Roger will be like calling as like the One Piece. And since like Roger might have said all this to like Whitebeard even from like the past, like and also like after then from like Lapdale, Roger might have told this all to like Whitebeard. So like another thing like as like Whitebeard during like the war Marineford as Whitebeard was about to die, like basically Whitebeard even shouting out that like the One Piece is real will be precisely due to that One Piece, due to like Whitebeard, like feeling that feeling of absolute realization that they that in 820 years, like after seeing everything Luffy have done, like everything, to be the precise reason will be like Luffy, that will be the precise reason for like Whitebeard finally at that point, getting that absolute feeling of like a confirmation and validation and that feeling of realization that basically the knowledge within like the Chronicles and last trail is actually the quote, the One Piece is so and the One Piece is the real and basically that like after seeing everything Luffy did that Luffy is going to let's see like exactly like how it's like written in like the Chronicles in like the last phase in One Piece, like basically how it's written that like Joker will be making his return in like 20 years, like Luke through Luffy, like Joker will be making his return in like 20 years, like that realization. It might have been with that absolute certainty of feeling of like a realization that like why there might have died in like the one report, and this might be the first reason for like why they're right because it's just like shouting out the One Piece is real. It's definitely what might have happened is definitely my personal impression. So like the film I was remembering right now as for like index the present right now as like Marco in front of Luffy, like asking Jinbei as to like why Jinbei thinks that like all those people saved like Luffy in like the war in Marineford. Like basically why Marco is even asking those to like Jinbei, both Marco as well as Jinbei would be well aware that like there's a reason for all those people in like the who are like mostly majority of those people who are like absolute strangers or even enemies to like Luffy, like they leave them all like basically saving, repeatedly saving like and desperately risking their life to like save Luffy in like the war in like Marineford. Like both Jinbei as well as like Marco right now in present as well would be like only aware that basically the reason is because of like because of like them all seeing Luffy as like feeling Luffy as like with like the things Luffy was doing in like war in Marineford, them all feeling like Luffy as like the beacon of hope to like basically for like all of the like who could like bring about like solutions to all of the problems like them all seeing or like even feeling or like even having a feeling towards like Luffy as like beacon of that beacon of hope like the very same feeling that like the people all those innocent beings and some people across like the void century might have seen like Joy Boy and their beacon of hope to like basically to free them and basically to come up with like solutions to solve all their problems like basically that way like basically like both Jinbe as well as like Marco right now in like the person would be well fully aware that like Luffy it's definitely the and especially right now it's like Luffy even having turned into like year 5 as well. Like basically definitely like they would all be like Jinbe as well as Marco and like definitely be well aware that like Luffy is going to be like the return of Joy Boy eventually and Luffy will be like learning about it and realizing that eventually as well. Eventually about like the voice and about like Joy Boy and everything and Luffy will be eventually finding out and like both Marco as well as they would want that to like happen naturally as how it's meant to happen naturally. That but through like Luffy eventually reaching like the One Piece and finding like the One Piece like for uh things to happen naturally and basically for Luffy to like learn the truth like naturally without like Marco or Jinbei spoiling it for Luffy. And I'm offering like jump would be also think that like even if they spoil it for Luffy, that basically that might even have like the consequence of like possibly even altering like the is of how it's like naturally meant to be. Like it's also definitely meant to be. So this might be the reason for like Marco right now casually asking Jinde about like why was it that like all of them in like Marineford helped Luffy and like uh Marco even like asking Jinde to send Jinde straight away like with a smile like responding back that basically actually as if like it was so long back he doesn't remember. It's definitely my personal impression right now. So like definitely my personal impression as for like Marco back during like the war in Marco when Ace had died like when Marco had like this was like struggling to like protect Luffy from like again Marco is shouting out that basically that like to like the white where that basically Ace's will would live through Luffy that basically operations that like basically if Marco thinks that Aces will would be like living through Luffy, like what Marco might have really meant might have been about like the will of Lee, might have not been about like Aces will, but might have originally be about like the will of Joy Boy, which would be like the will of Lee. And I'm thinking Lee would be like either like Shadow Hope or like Shadow just that remember because like I'm thinking back at like, the voice injury, like Nemo might have been like always like trying to play God and since like always like I'm looking like since like Joe might have always proposed at least report out fought back against like and looking like the uh, everyone in like the voice injury like all those people in uh like all those people regardless of the tribes who are like supporting Joy Boy like might have fought Joy Boy the devil because of like Joy Boy opposing it also might have been what might have happened. So like the will of things will be like the will of devil, which would be like the will of Joy Boy. It's also like a opposite that I'm talking, or like it would be like the will of the devil for like this belongs to Joy Boy for like the mercenary like and which would be like the awakened someone which will be like what like passed down all these years. And but like even if it's like the will of the devil for like actually Marco, neither Marco nor Biden might have had absolutely no flow within that time. That basically the status like the community, the Indian American. So like like that will like that's like passed down all the way back from like to from the words in the region that like Marco back then protect while protecting the peak saying that like the will of his would be like living for now would be apparatus less would be like living through Luffy. Marco might have only meant like the will that's like passed down all the way back from the words in the from Joe by like and after these like they like basically when to keep that like will be uh passing on towards like that will be like passing on to like Jesus brother Luffy who also have like the in name and basically that way like Joy with that absolute will and will to like basically to free the world when they are given the word something like basically that will like basically living through from here through Luffy and basically eventually resulting in like Luffy eventually like becoming that ultimate Joy Boy and basically like freeing like the world and basically that way through Luffy, like basically that the so away from like the voice and the riches will coming through Luffy might have been what like Marco might have meant all the way back from that during that walk in Marineford. It's definitely my decision to be understand right now. So like the Korean questions that they even though it's through like a great support, like still basically just like basically executing Kaido and Luffy freeing like the entirety of like, the land of Wano, like for like Jinbei and Marco right now, what they would be seeing all this as would be along the lines as just like Joy Boy through Luffy making his move bit by bit and basically they will be talking that what Marco as well as Jinbei will be like what we're doing right now. Would they also that basically that the more Luffy travels like no matter where Luffy goes, like Luffy will be like exactly like how Joy from like the Voice and might have been doing like Luffy as well. Will be like with Joy within Luffy will be like delivering that freedom there but like Luffy goes eventually in once like Luffy's journey would be ending with like Luffy fighting like the One Piece like the time like both Jinbei as well as like not so bit only believing that like once Luffy's journey would be ending with like Luffy finding like the One Piece like at that point like finally like the Goofy as well, like he'll be like realizing like whom the true villain is about like the existence of like in it and like the elder and it really that way like Luffy's journey finally actually properly ending with like Luffy making his return to the his face off against like the main villain and through like this and that way like by defeating that main villain for like rules over like the entire like the world like basically Luffy finally like Luffy and like the Joy Boy through the return of Joy Boy like Luffy through the Joy Boy within like Luffy like basically that way delivering that absolute freedom to like the entirety of like the world. This will be what like Marcos will have been there right now would be like patiently waiting and like all those like situations that like going on in like Luffy's life right now in like the person like will be like seen by Marco as well as Linda or as uh, like uh, as like the process leading towards that ultimate final result will be along the lines like like Marco will have been there right now will be how we see everything in like Luffy's life right now. It's definitely one of the so like my impressions that like maybe like Jinbei as well as like Marco might not be aware of like basically actually like it like the the role of like the entire world and like the various of seeing like specifically he move and like the five world of but they were like being most of the world they like neither been there nor smart for knowing exactly their identities or anything, but like what they would be knowing is like from all the knowledge that they might have gained throughout their life, like and they would like what they would be knowing in like the present would be that what like Marcus and when they will be knowing like the present would be that like there are like far more extreme villains people like even beyond the Celestial dragons like further up in like the higher hierarchy even beyond like the Celestial dragons who would be like specified people that like basically ruling like who have been like ruling like the world since like historical steps and basically like, who are like the people behind like the situation of like the world being the way it is for like all these 800 plus years to be along the lines like bringing like a big man or like Jimbe as well as Marco would be like be aware of even to the person especially in the friend. So like they're bringing those villains at the very top down would be only possible through Luffy would be what like Jinbe as well as Marco would be right now in like the person maybe to doing definitely my was very interesting. Yes, so like minimum very interesting right now. So like Amazon in the that kind of being to a certain extent being in like the fraud kind of state most as well, even coming from Amazon really like all this would have been due to like the fight that might have taken place between like Kobe versus like Hancock. That's definitely my favorite but in which like definitely Kobe might have only overpowered Hancock and might have imprisoned and arrested Hancock and might have totally taken away Hancock. And I'm specifically my favorite impression that like Hancock would be like Hancock would be right now would be imprisoned in like Marijoa in like there will be like a person in like Marijoa and there will be where like right now Sabo as well as like Hancock as well as Doflamingo as well as individually especially my Buddha impression. I'm still taking my Buddha impression for like Hancock eventually ending up joining like the cross of like Buggy Crocodile as well as like Nico. Definitely there is a scenario that I'm looking at. Still taking my Buddha impression for like that for like at that point Hancock as well as like Alberta not at all getting along. Like each of them being threatened by each of their like extreme beauty like the scenario that I'm looking at. Definitely like the whole Sanji Zoro chemistry totally happening between that Hancock and Alberta. From that point on, it's like the scenario that I'm looking at. And it's specifically my preferred impression that basically it would just feel like Hancock alone, but like Flamingo as well. But like would be eventually a staying and basically eventually ending up joining like the cross guild of like Buggy. It's like the definitive into scenario that I'm talking about my preferred impression. Okay, so like definition of preferred impression right now with like Hancock still being present in like Amazon really even up in the whole fight like Amazon and especially with like Hancock having like bandage on his like on her like forehead. Definitely my preferred impression that like so definitely that Kobe versus Hancock fight might have definitely happened and in that fight I'm like the fight might have been I'm looking like the fight might have not even been evenly matched. Like I'm looking like that initially it might have been evenly matched, but like eventually I'm looking like Kobe might have slowly started to like go up Hancock might have been what might have happened. And at that point like Hancock might have totally pulled out her trump card of like a move and which would be like straight away turning Kobe into like a stone statue to like what might have happened. And straight away like the Navy might have totally got scared and basically might have totally picked the stone structure of like Kobe and basically might have ran away. Might have been what might have happened. It's definitely my book impression. So like I'm looking at like but like in that fight between Kobe might have been when through how like Hancock might have got this like whole bandage on her forehead as well as like that Amazon Lily like a whole lot of like Amazon a certain extent of like Amazon Lilies and being destroyed might have happened in such a manner. It's definitely my book impression. So definitely I'm looking like one of like the like definitely I'm looking Kobe would be totally uh definitely even while Kobe right now is not an admirable position or anything like still I'm looking Kobe would be totally seen as like a valuable asset to like the Navy. It's definitely one of the impression. So like I'm looking most likely like the stone Kobe right now would be like I'm looking the scenario would be like after getting defeated by hands of like Kobe like who would have turned into stone that might have been carefully brought back into like the Navy ship and might have been transported back to like the Navy Institute and they are like I'm looking like Garp might have been informed. Garp might have found out about this Kobe situation, and Amber like Garp would be totally having like exceptional happy calls and everything. So like with that, like Amber Garp might have Garp might be having like all sorts of like unique powers. So like Amber like the using his power might have easily undone the petrified state of like Kobe, and might have it might have been Garp that might have saved Kobe at that point. Might have been what might have happened. Certainly, might have been the impression. So definitely my the impression right now as well like Hancock right now feeling concerned for like her presence in like Amazon Lily something like the Navy to like eventually make their return again. Like I'm definitely like Hancock right now would be like leaving like Amazon Lily, and I'm like Hancock definitely was like through like one of the newspaper like I'm like Hancock probably seeing like the whole cross guild news of like Buggy like the scenario that I'm looking. So like I'm Hancock straight away deciding to like basically that like joining the cross guild would be like that absolute perfect safe spot for like Hancock to like escape from like the navy and remain protected while also simultaneously being able to like protect sub project Amazon Lady as well. It's like the scenario that I'm doing. So like with that decision like I'm putting like the scenario to be like Hancock straight away heading over to like the structure like heading over to like the island where like Buggy like CrossFit space would be, and that way like Hancock ending up joining like the CrossFit of Buggy is like the scenario that I'm going to bring. So like the flavor of the impression right now as for like Kobe right now deploying like the new Pacific Star Seraphim with like mini version of that thing. Definitely the impression that like so definitely basically definitely like even looking like a mini version of King would be precisely due to like basically back when King was like was experimented upon as like a guinea pig back in like concept that like back then like since like King age might have been since like King was like very young and like way smaller back then like this might be the reason for like the Pacific as well, Seraphim as well being like small right now. It's definitely one of the impressions. So like I was like since like back then it was not King alone that was like a guinea pig in like concept that guinea pig of Vegapunk back then in like concept that since like even along with like King even like Cairo as well was like a guinea pig. I'm definitely putting like they will be like the Navy will be also having unrevealed like positive stuff that might have like it would just be sort of like there would be like other positive stuff that like Vegapunk might have created which like like the Navy might have not given to like Kobe for this mission and honestly might have and there will be like other positive stuff that might have like basically that Vegapunk might have only created out of like Cairo. Like Cairo back then was interested in like and was like a guinea pig. Like I'm sure back then Vegapunk might have in like contracted back then like Vegapunk might have conducted all sorts of experiments on like Cairo as well. So like I'm sure like a this version of Cairo as well would be totally present within the Navy, which will actually be a whole lot stronger than like the current new Pacific Seraphim that like Kobe is right now sending towards like Amazon League. Definitely my members. So like I'm sure the lead members that for the like Pacific side itself being like so definitely offered definitely my brother ever. Okay. And I'm different like and definitely for things like for like the Hancock as well as like Amazon Lily like group like Amazon won't be strong enough to basically offer like the to offer like certain like the scenario that I'm different like maybe it being like for Hancock that would be like maybe it's taken out Seraphim is like the scenario that I'm doing but like by then it's like I'm doing like Kobe showing up and maybe like I'm doing like for Hancock like about to get defeated by Kobe. So it's like the scenario that I'm doing. And at that point like Hancock will be totally think that it's all over for her and that he's about to get defeated and get arrested and or that will be what Hancock will be thinking. But like ambassador at that point, my ambassador that at that point might have been that the extreme twist might have happened at that point because like and it would be all due to like the genius Buggy and this like genius strategy definitely my revelation because like even with Crocodile as well as Nighthawk are so exceptionally awkward when compared to Buggy, that's still Buggy's like strategical mind like ambassador like both neither Nighthawk nor the Crocodile really won't be having. So like Buggy might have the bug is goal to like get stronger as like the ultimate crop will like buggy might have totally formed a plan and that plan might have been to like get all the remaining warlords to like basically to join like buggy's crossfit because like it is because like the current situation is like the whole abolition of like the warlord system like definitely so like buggy might have strategist and told Crocodile as well as like Mihawk at that point who would have been like just listening to like Buggy spitting out all this like genius strategy might have been like the scenario at that point. But me remember like Buggy might have told like Crocodile as well as like Mihawk that basically since like the abolition of warlord system is like going on, so like all the other warlords as well will be like getting targeted by the Navy. So like for like then for like the crossfield to like get stronger, like they could like totally like go they should like go up to like the warlords before like the navy gets to like the warlords and that way get so that like basically like they would be like without hesitation the warlords would be without hesitation would be like joining like the crossfield because like by themselves like they would be at risk of basically easily getting overpowered by like the force of like the navy the collective work of like the Navy that's like right now after that. Maybe along the lines of like the ultimate Venus strategical plan that Airborne System like Buggy might have told Crocodile as well as me. This like I was putting Crocodile as well as me might have felt that it was like an absolutely brilliant plan at that point of like the scenario that I was looking. So like right now the like Bohan the scenario to be like Bohan of like struggling her way into like repeating Seraphim but like then like Koby versus Bohan was fight happening and Koby totally overpowering and defeating Bohan and right then itself like Buggy and like Buggy's like entire cross-skilled teams that on the ship would be showing up to like Amazon Lily at that point, with the intent to like recruit Hancock to like the cross-skills of Buggy. Might have been like the scenario that might have happened. It's just never was remembered. So like I'm looking like once like Buggy and Crocodile and Mihawk would be showing up like I'm looking like them but like I'm looking like most likely it would be like Crocodile or like Mihawk but like either one of them like the absolute ease will be like totally or no doubt totally or like Kobe might have been what might have happened. So you remember the famous so that way, like, it will either crocodile or like, and especially because of like Bundy, like Genius tragedy might have been how like Hancock might have been saved during that attack by Kobe and like the mom on like Amazon League back then, which definitely might have been relevant. But like, so like that way, like the Navy might have escaped back then, but like Kobe might have been what might have happened. And straight away, like I'm looking Bundy might have told Hancock to like basically join like their cross build might have been what might have happened. So like at that point, like I was looking like Hancock might have totally maybe might have been in a situation where like since like Hancock during then might have been feeling like as if like the hero himself like really and with like Buggy Amber like might have ordered it and might have been with that absolute or conflict might have told Hancock that that is she sure is like basically now going to join in our crossfield maybe along the lines like Buggy might have told Hancock and that might have maybe like triggered Hancock and Amber like Hancock might have straight away, even though Hancock might have been badly injured at that point, I'm wondering Hancock might have straight away refused like the offer of joining like the crossfield of Buggy might have been what might have happened. So like I'm looking like Buggy might have been totally shocked and Buggy might have talked back to like Hancock in a rude manner solely due to like Buggy feelings that absolute courage solely due to like the presence of like Mihawk as well as Crocodile standing beside Buggy. Definitely what might have happened. So like I'm looking like once like Hancock and Buggy might have once again told Hancock to like rethink her decision. But like at that point, like Hancock might have told Buggy that like he's not joining. And straight away, like Crocodile as has Mihawk might have not wanted to stay there at all. And I'm looking like Crocodile and Mihawk might have straight away went back to the ship and basically straight away that way like Buggy as well as like Rothschild me like might have left Amazon Lily at that point might have been what might have happened. So like I'm looking for like then right now like and so like I'm looking after they left like I'm looking Hancock might have rethink what he had her rejection of like joining the roster. And basically like I'm looking like the scenario to be like eventually Hancock probably thinks that basically it was a wrong choice to like for her to like reject to join the roster and like to save Amazon Lily like I'm looking like and for like Hancock's own safety like I'm looking like Hancock deciding to like leave Amazon Lily and Hancock ending up joining like the roster of like Buggy like the scenario that I'm really putting in Victorian version. Also, definitely in the Victorian version right now, as for like basically like as Koby is like sending out like Seraphim, like the Pacific Stars, Seraphim to like Amazon Lily, like Koby also trying to like record like using like the camera, like the Seraphim's like, performance, like that usually especially because of like Seraphim being like a new Pacific Star, like basically like it would be either the recording would be like because like I'm looking to be like the very first battle of Seraphim, that would be right now. So like to test like the performance of Seraphim like the creation of like to be the creation of like a content so like to record and basically to show that performance of Serpent to like Vegapunk might be the reason for like Kobe right now ordering to like record according to like Vegapunk's orders, like Koby might be right now ordering like the Navy men to like record like the battle performance of certain so that like Vegapunk could like, and it wouldn't just be used for like Vegapunk alone, like it might be also for like maybe like the admirals as well, maybe for a trainer, but so like for them to like or see like the performance of like maybe it would be meant for like Vegapunk so that like he could like see the performance of like the newly created stuff performance sometimes like performance so that like that if like the performance is like underwhelming from like according to like Vegapunk standards, like then like Vegapunk would be knowing how to like uh, to make what kind of like a such improvement for like Seraphim to like make Seraphim even more stronger and tougher. So like to be pretty for just the reason that I'm with Koby to be right now ordering like the Navy met to like a record like certain like battle performance that they never mentioned. So like the team of the same machines or like through this like a recorded video of like certain like performance like under the context like under like for the like injury and feeling like underwhelming for like the standards of like Vegapunk and members for like Vegapunk eventually making a lot of changes to like Seraphim and eventually like under like Vegapunk building and like another version of like Seraphim that would be like far superior stronger than like the current new version of like Seraphim. It's definitely my opinion. So like the name of the impressions were like actually towards like the very end of like the show one is like I'm remembering like towards like the final war against like like I'm looking like in the case of like the uh being in like the side of fighting alongside like Straw had Crow like I'm looking like 21st what Straw had Grand Fleet that of like 5,000 something and members and from like then there would be like the entirety of like the revolutionary army also fighting alongside the Straw had Crow and then certainly like the entirety of like the cross-guild army was like burning. And then like there would be like like by then like towards the very end like like with most judge finally deciding to like fight alongside like product so like so there would be judge and like Sandeep siblings as well as like judge of like creation of like an entire force of like an army fighting against like remove like the five elders and basically 5 or 7 elders. I don't remember. Like I think it's by the 5 elders. Like so remove the elders and basically then like the admirals like then like the seasons of then like the world government the vice admiral, the giants. These would be all like in that team. And I was like in the case of like so Cross team like basically for like giant numbers like there will be like the giant like from Little Garden, and then there will be the giant Microsoft had formed friendship with as well in like in his lobby as well. Like, so there will be only few giants in like the side of like the side of like the Straw Hat Group fighting against like Emo armies. But like in the case of like Emo like like by the time it will be like time for like the final ultimate war like like in mostly like like will be getting eventually getting like the majority of like the giants from Elba to like fight alongside mostly it's definitely a personal impression. So, like then there the different like there will be also like the all the Pacificers, like all the great army of like Pacificers created by Vegapunk by then like Seraphim would be absolutely nothing when compared to like that huge entire army of like Pacificers. The each of like those Pacificers towards the very that will be participating in that war that will take place towards the very end would be far superior and stronger than like maybe 10 times even stronger than even Seraphim right now. Certainly like than the Purple Seraphim right now. Certainly not the same. So like Vegapunk considering that eventually like in that final war it would be like a scenario where like it would be like a moose army like fighting alongside with like moose like army like there would be also like Vegapunk and his entire army of like all these Pacific stuff worth of like the entire army of like the creation of like all this like Pacific stuff to oppose like the Pacific stuff like and like there will be like a huge army created by Jan as well as like Caesar as well as like Queen, like eventually by then, like Queen, all of them would be like ending up forming, like ending up fighting alongside so like the winter scenario that everything. So like the minds of like Judge as well as like Queen as well as like Caesar, even though they won't be at all getting along initially, but like by the time it will be finding almost time for like the war, like not much time will be left, like I'm them all working hard and working together, and I'm it will be like the minds of like Queen, Caesar as well as like Judge that will be working together and forming like the ultimate army to basically oppose like Vegapunk a single vagabond like huge army of like photos of like the scenario that I was and I was different like definitely initially definitely still I'm looking like Judge Queen as well as like Caesar like entire army to like or forces to like that they would robotic kind of like force that they would have created to like keep this struggle against like that vagabond like army but still have to like maybe like Caesar or like someone like Robin like vagabond like usually have like the war will be like progressing to a great extent I'm like eventually maybe like it would be through their army like I'm like most likely that the army still would being like far superior strong yet like at that point would be when like I'm like somehow like the control to like the entire like the army like somehow I'm maybe it would be like Caesar like or like doing I'm most likely it would be like Caesar somehow like scaling that control and basically causing like causing maybe like that huge robotic army of like a stack army of like weapons to like totally lose control or like to act against like Timo's army, like fight against Timo army. That be like some sort of like a malfunctioning or like a feeling of control of like the entire army of participants of like weapons, which is like what I'm discussing due to like this practical due to the strategy of most likely of that of Caesar, it's like an injustice scenario that I'm but that way like I'm finally Caesar would be getting his lack of revenge against like kind of like a feeling of like absolute jealousy that like people only having towards like Vegapunk because of like Vegapunk like superior brilliance and the like Caesar eventually like getting like getting her satisfying end to that with like Caesar still outmarking like Vegapunk towards like the very end and causing like Vegapunk like superiorly strong army to like maybe malfunction or like turn against like most armies like also like an eventual conclusion it was like the final showdown war of like a war that only takes place. Also kind like such a possible living scenario that I'm also putting on the Yes, so like the flame of the impression right now as for like the model of like Seraphim like basically having like a lot of satellite to like King's capitals and yet like Seraphim the that's just the Seraphim also like at the same time having like the earrings that is like War and stuff like and that's like it wouldn't just like that earring being like the same as that of War and it would simply not be due to like that Seraphim like basically being possibly being constructed to like destroy Amazon delete and capture Hancock. That would be the reason for like Serpent having like, the very same hearing as like Hancock. But like the actual peak of like the situation number the thing will be not at least because like really in like the Simpas had say Hancock in like the Simpas like basically so like back then like even back then Hancock might have had double through powers. It's definitely remember to remember. So like about the like back then like about like maybe in while Hancock walked in her like in different like state like even like Vegapunk as well might have been present there and in particular like Vegapunk might have also experimented on Hancock and maybe due to that experiments like evolution like might have eventually resulted in like basically the current creation of like substance is also like the specific substance also the name of the so like also like definitely like substance would be under super index substance has that same hearing that of Hancock like the actuality of substance having such a design and having such an hearing would be also due to like certain body having like the like those certain is like a specific test like a robotic like thing like and doesn't have any level power like still certain would be able to like specify its targets like the same power as that of like hands off like hands off level time delivering certain will be also having that power. It's also that make microsensory on top of that, having like change power, like something would be also having that like a better flying power on that handbook as well. Definitely my dream. Okay, so like definitely my dream right now as for like the mysterious warship that like the Navy men from like Amazon India right now see at a distance. Like it is definitely that the warship belonging to like the cross field of body is definitely my dream. Yes, so like definitely my Korean version right now is that like the Blackbeard was that like basically the right now showing up to like Amazon Lily. Definitely I'm looking like Blackbeard will be like might have totally would be totally right now trying to take advantage of like the whole abolition of like warlord situation. So like specifically show up only towards like Hancock and Hancock alone because of like Hancock's beauty. Like I'm looking at especially Blackbeard would be like specifically only showing up to decide that only to take advantage of like the situation of like the warlords to like specifically to only to like Amazon we need to like have to recruit like Hancock into like in the Blackbeard Pirates. Definitely my good for him. So like I'm also going like right now the female generations are like Blackbeard. The Blackbeard virus would be easily crushing like Seraphim as well as like Koby as well as force them and defeating them. And I was wondering then Blackbeard would be totally overconfident. You think that basically with him saving like Amazon Lily, like he could just straight away walk up to like Hancock and basically tell Hancock to like join the crew and basically Blackbeard Parrot and like Hancock would straight away would be agreeing, but like I'm pretty Hancock straight away rejecting Blackbeard like the scenario that I'm looking at and straight to Blackbeard space like I'm looking at Hancock straight away rejecting which is like the scenario that I'm looking for and at that point, I was super maybe like Blackbeard deciding to like use force and basically that way in like extremely villainous manner using force like trying to like hand over like the scenario that I'm describing. So like by then like the Navy would have been probably defeated and they would have probably escaped by then. Just literally right. So like at that point I was like maybe Blackbeard using force trying to like abduct Hancock and like at that point like Hancock would be like already so badly injured and by then and basically won't be able to for, uh, defend herself and so like at that point maybe I'm participant would be when like Buggy and like Buggy's like entire army of it like and Buggy's like crocodile and I was like even though it will be just Buggy crocodile and Mingho still there will be like huge army like the entire army like unlike if like Blackbeard states like where like Blackbeard might have definitely not brought the like entire army like what if like I was like in the case of like um in the case of like Buggy's crossing like the entire force of like Buggy might have crossed like the entire soldiers of like Buggy might have brought. So like at that point like I'm like once they only showing up like I'm like Blackbeard deciding to like even though Blackbeard won't be like intimidated by them like I'm still considering like Blackbeard still at that point maybe like losing interest and basically deciding to like obviously head back. And that way like Blackbeard part of like leaving is like the scenario where I'm going. And like at that point like Buggy asking that Hancock to like join just like Rockton and like Hancock even rejecting Buggy as well, like the scenario that I was in. And like Buggy and like the Roskill and there was like basically leaving and then like I was different still like I was like Hancock like without much great delay would be regretting that decision and Hancock is picking like joining like Buggy's Roskill over like joining like the Black Fire like the scenario that I'm discovering. I'm not okay, so like definitely my very mentioned right now with like creating like the future and like the Navy men like sharing like the Neptunians will like notice like and like definitely like the Neptunians like and the would be most likely the Sea King definitely know with right. So like I'm exactly like Lunarians and Neptunians like I'm the things they would be having common would be that like both Lunarians as well as Neptunians might have been present all the way back in like the void from like the void century, definitely my very impression. It is like the Navy military obsession right now is like Blackbeard right now saying that like he won't let like the Navy have like Hancock's like the its power like first of all my military impression is that like with that dialogue like Blackbeard would be like well aware about like where to fund and like where to fund like pacifist experiments to like a great degree. It's definitely my impression. Like Blackbeard might have over the years might have gained all that and knowledge from like experimenting like fungus and all that is definitely my military impression because like definitely my preferred impression for like Blackbeard right now saying this dialogue will be especially because of like possibly Blackbeard only thinks that basically that if like the Navy in the name of like abolition of the warlord like the Navy might actually like be trying to like basically capture like Hancock and then to basically create like pacifist stuff with like the same growth power like petrification power that of like Hancock uh, would be like the intent of like the world government would be along the lines like like Blackbeard would be thinking so like so like wondering would be the precise maybe a reason behind like Blackbeard even saying the dialogue this exact dialogue is definitely not the same but like like even while Blackbeard right now is saying that like he won't let like the world government he won't let the Navy have like hands off like those even while like Blackbeard has already been revealed to be like basically like in the search for like all sorts of like powerful diversity powers and are like stealing all those powerful diversity powers from others like and all that like but still in the case of Hancock I'm a particular like Blackbeard won't be like stealing away like Hancock like diversity powers but like instead like Blackbeard's intent would be to like basically like to tell Hancock to like basically to join Blackbeard's group and that way to like have like Hancock as well as like some developer powers like stay with like the Blackbeard virus would be like Blackbeard intent is definitely my preferred impression. Okay, well, like minimum of 300% right now, as for like Vice Admiral Yama Kujia right now, like basically Felix and episode just to like wait for approval from like its skills to like basically even attack like a fire through like macro fires like definitely like even though even right now when there's like absolutely no warlord system or and when like the Black Empire right now the Blackbeard even being like the emperor of the sea like still for like the Navy soldiers like wanting like to get approval from like HQ to attack like a Blackbeard pirates like definitely my good impression right now uh, that like the reason for such an order from like Vice Admiral Yamazaki would be precisely so the long line of hierarchy from like the Navy from like the Vice Admiral to like the Admiral to like the Fleet Admirals to the elders and more that basically definitely I'm still thinking about the ambitions, but like basically when it comes to like pirate group, like Shanks as like red hair pirates as well as like Blackbeards, like pirate as well as like the Blackbeard pirate crew, like there will be always that hesitancy in like the from like the world government, in like from the higher ups in like the world government in like making any sudden attack against them. It's definitely my friend. This is already because of like basically I'm still thinking about the friend, but like he moved in like the past like basically have been shown like basically looking staring at like a photo of like Blackbeard. And was looking who used really because like a move might have totally explain both Shanks and the citizens like Shanks in like the past at one point have showed up all the way to like Marineford, all the way to like Marijo in front of like the elders like basically. So that means my brother mission it will be all like remote summoning of like Shanks as well as like that might have happened in like the past. Definitely my brother mission where like you might have only try to like bribe both Shanks as well as Blackbeard with like the offer of like immortality, the power of immortality. It's like definitely would be immortal and you'll be having like the power to give immortality to others. Definitely no permission. So like Amazon definitely not only more but like the five elders who would be like sons like would be all from like the voice center. It's definitely no permission. It's only due to like them being them having like the power of immortality which will be given to them by There's no reason for like them even being allowed to into the percentage, especially my brother and so like might have totally tempted and it's still into my consideration that like it would be really more that might have given like even Tunisia as well like the power of immortality in exchange for like Tunisia already having like done that crime from the recent past. It might have been the betrayal of Joy Boys to taking Joy Boys life. Because like Tunisia might have been jealousy, might have been in that absolute jealousy of like basically Joy Boys like some friendship which might have been formed with like the Norman from like the legendary. Especially when the brand. So like might have only taken advantage of that situation of like Tunisia of like that relative unit to like easily trick donation into like committing such a crime of like taking of like basically pushing maybe Joy Boy into like the sea while in like the middle of the sea that way tricking Joy Boy and basically that might have been how like Joy Boy might have died like and like might have been just like the feet of Joy Boy alone like that might have through that push of Tunisia might have touched like the sea and like the salt water like the sea might have caused like the developer of power containing Joy Boy to like get weak and then to like fall off into the sea. And that way, how might have been how Joy Boy might have died. Definitely, my friends and benefiting out of the like in exchange of taking Joy Boy's like Tunisia might have also brought like the giant hat of like Joy Boy might have been brought towards like as like evidence for like having taken of like Tunisia having taken Joy Boy's and basically might have like rewarded like basically Tunisia with like the power of immortality might have been what might have happened. So like I'm like this might be how like tricks like everyone into like basically don't think what want definitely my brother like that way like might have been like in like the in like the past like might have like basically Shanks showing up to like to Mario as well as like like basically looking at like Blackwood's photo when the leader to like like the past having someone like Shanks as well as Blackwood to Mario or like at some point in like the past where like might authorize them as like giving them the power of immortality in exchange for like them bringing like Luffy like Gundam to definitely my friend. So like I'm like Luffy's Gundam through I'm still thinking my friend is for like how Luffy's Gundam will be working after like its awakening of it like year 5 of like after like how it will be working would be in that how Luffy would be able to like use like there will be that in the year 5 awakened Gundam to south of Luffy Luffy will be able to like use that power to like basically take out his like Gundam through using his own will and basically give it to another person. Like, but like Luffy's will would be required, and that would be the strategy through thanks that like Emo might have been might be trying to do depending on the terrain because like Emo might be knowing far too well about like the Gammon Throat all the way from way back from like the voice century when like Joy Bites might have also had like the awakened Gammon Throat depending on the terrain. This would be like Emo's strategy through chance to like get back to the Gammon Throat and Emo's strategy through Blackbeard to like get back to the Gammon Throat would be through definitely since like Blackbeard has had stolen like Whitebeard's like throat the output and then bring it through force would be like how like by would be using a strategy through Blackbeard to like basically to forcefully like or and defeat Luffy and basically to forcefully take back like the Gundam would be like the strategy that Emo would be using through Blackbeard by through chance like Emo would be using the strategy of like basically to like use it to like for trying to like only use to like that the depth that you Luffy have towards tank to basically so that way like to form that guild within Luffy and that way to take advantage of that depth towards tanks that Luffy has to like get back the Gundam for it. Like this will be like these two methods in like Gundam definitely remove it only using to like get back the Gundam from Luffy and this will be the precise reason for like the Navy probably having like an absolute hesitation when it comes to even from like the hierarchy of like the hierarchy from all the way from the admirals and above like basically like uh, there will be that hesitation when it comes to like attacking like the black ship pirates as well as like the red ship pirates of tanks. It's definitely my those ambition. So this would be the precise reason for like even though like the lower rank officers won't be like knowing as like why this hesitation exists like and still they will be only knowing that like the hesitation exists and this would be the precise reason for like right now even like Admiral Vice Admiral Yamato like even telling like the Navy soldiers to like wait for execute like approval before like attacking Blackbeard before attacking like the Blackbeard that's especially my personal impression right now. Okay, so like actually my personal impression right now as for like Kobe is like extreme innocent like it's like Kobe right now like it's like even using it like microphone like basically speaker basically right now shouting out to like Hancock warning Hancock like a pirate empress like Hancock son like basically that would be basically like that extreme innocent within like Kobe that extreme innocent would be eventually like would be backfiring on Kobe eventually multiple times in like the future of the members of the definitely I'm looking like Kobe while I'm looking at Kobe right even right now would be so exceptionally strong like I'm still and even in like the future I'm also trying Kobe getting even with like the serious space like I'm looking at Kobe getting stronger and stronger when it comes to like his strength and potential but like still I'm looking at Kobe would be like still lacking in the area when it comes to like basically the vulnerability there would be that extreme vulnerability of like Kobe getting tricked especially with like Kobe being like an Navy officer and dealing with like pirates like I'm looking at Kobe in like the future would be like multiple times getting tricked by pirates especially when especially because of like Kobe is like being like it's like the sort of opposite of like Akainu like basically so because of like Kobe being so extremely like innocent that extreme like innocence of like Kobe and the Superman totally working against Kobe multiple times in like the future definitely on the second version. So Kobe I'm definitely protecting will be getting touched by strong pirates like multiple times in like the future. Yet like I'm assuming the sole reason like Kobe won't be ending up still dying would be solely due to like Kobe suffering all that exceptional powers and potential within Kobe like living the scenario that I'm supposed to I'm able to impression. So like I'm supposed to like also definitely a good impression right now but like one of like Hancock's like sister like referring to Kobe as like Kobe is the hero like and it will be probably because of like the training from Garth like that extreme training that Garth might have given to like both Kobe as well as Helmet but like I'm like it would be like Kobe that might have exceeded like far better than Helmet though Helmet was well to be like this from still like Kobe might have followed like the footsteps of Garth and excelled way more than Helmet and like the really like due to like that extreme training of like special training that Garth might have just really given to like Kobe and the running definitely this will be how like Kobe might have interpreted like right now like the name like Kobe is a hero especially because of like that popularity habit his like name among like the name that is the among the name of like Garth the hero like right now Kobe having like the name Kobe the hero would be but when you go to like Kobe like Garth might have so like training might have taught a lot of techniques of Gap, like Amazon Gap might have potentially taught Kobe as the main of the surrender. So like Amazon, there only that similarity in like fighting skills and styles of like both Gap as well as Kobe might separately exist to definitely remember friends. This uh might be like the main reason for like Amazon like Kobe right now. Then the person having inherited this name Kobe, but it's definitely might of injury and protection right now. And also the cinema with reimbursements for like eventually like the instances are like Kobe, that totally surpassing Dark Frank. Just like the scenario that I'm yet like I'm also bring like even after surpassing Dark Franklin like the instances of one like Kobe will be in like that distant future. So that as just going to be fighting off against Lucy, still I'm also bringing Lucy versus like GF5 powers if like Lucy by then would be would have taken to like the extreme levels like Kobe still not being like that much enough of like a match to like hold his own against hold his own enough to again in a fight against uh a, a Joy Boy Lucy. It's certainly like might have the impression as for like the distances of fight between Kobe and Lucy certainly not the same. Or is it like question the same version right now? Like the two developers for something like Emperor Blackbeard right now still being concerned about like and fearful of like Hancock and basically even giving advice to the like to crew members to like approach her discreetly and all that. Like definitely the impression that the scenario that I'm referring is definitely correct. Hancock will definitely turn Blackbeard into stone, into like the petrified state, like the scenario that I'm referring. But like I'm referring before, Blackbeard will be fully turning into like the petrified state, like I'm referring like Blackbeard, or like I'm referring Blackbeard fully, like Hancock fully turning Blackbeard into like the petrified state. But like I'm referring Blackbeard from within like the petrified state, like using his like dark brute power to like basically absorb like that whole petrification and basically that way, that way, go him from failing at like better times back there. It's like getting to scenario that I'm also bringing up at the time. I'm also predicting like maybe for like Hancock's petrification powers like maybe not working against like Kobe. Definitely it will be working against like Helmabo, but like I'm maybe not working against Kobe. It's also like a possibility that I'm looking. Okay, so like definitely not the impression right now as well. Like the person something right now that's charging towards like Blackbeard and specifically attacking Blackbeard. Like I'm looking right now definitely for like the scenario to be in that not Blackbeard in like a one versus one fight, like defeating Seraphim. Like kill up Seraphim, like the open might have done like the Seraphim job. It's definitely at like creating Seraphim is definitely very much simple. Like I'm looking maybe for like Seraphim being so extremely fast that I'm looking even Blackbeard would be having like a hard time responding back against like certain attacks. So like that way, Blackbeard getting into trouble, and at that point, I'm also connected especially the two other crew members of Blackbeard like attacking Seraphim together. And that way, the three versus one fight again by three members of like the Blackbeard attacking like a single serpent together would be how like Amazon serpent would be like totally getting awed and defeated and destroyed. It's like the scenario that Amazon different. So like I'm also currently like such a defeat against such an overpowered like three versus one like would be what I'm referring for like the defeat of like Sarkam right now to happen. And basically that would basically getting recorded in that camera and basically like upon like basically as soon as we will be getting the video footage of like how Sarkam lost against like Blackbeard after the two of Blackbeard's crew members like in a trios one like I'm basically like upon straight away mod like creating like a new version of Seraphim, which would be like a grown up version of Seraphim, which would be like maybe of the same size of that of that king, which would be like way more superiorly advanced, which is stronger, which would be able to defend itself against that the weakness of Seraphim at that point like would be like overcome through that new superior version of like Seraphim that like eventually got a movie created would be like which will be able to like defend against like the three combined attack of Blackbeard and two members in such a situation. It's also like invented possible scenarios that I'm just looking at either depend or like evade like such the three simultaneous three combined attacks from all sides. It's like the usual scenario that I'm doing. Like you can creating such an extremely superiorly modified version of like Seraphim in the next year. Definitely yeah, so like definitely like the impression right now as for like Black Bears right now as like he's like struggling to like clock like the sword strike of like the surfing specific like Blackbeard is saying that he's sick that will be totally due to that Blackbeard knowing of King. So definitely remember the impression. So like Blackbeard would be like knowing of king and definitely like Blackbeard at the same time would be totally unaware of the king's court situation as how Cairo has gotten things to his army and basically what that basically that during that experiment in Punk has that basically the age of king was exactly that of this specific star definitely would be the precise reason for this specific star being small as by king is big. So since Blackbeard won't be aware of this the precise reason for Blackbeard right now being confused as to basically why the Navy has created World Government has created this specific star why created so small would be along the line Blackbeard will be confused about and this will be the precise reason for Blackbeard right now when saying that he's big definitely my book rest or according to opinions definitely my book. Okay, so the female about the ambition right now as for Hancock right now about to launch her first jet attack on so the the police of the ambition right now that to my perception for how exactly the first big attack might work ambition even if Koby right now and they block the first jet attack of for Hancock with armament that body part with which Kobe will be blocking that person takes will be constantly getting better fight. That will be the situation. Certainly, when we mention if Kobe even actually blocked that person take attack of Hancock, certainly when we understand that also with by all of them have basically gotten better fight by Hancock, basically Kobe alone not getting better fight. I'm looking Kobe might have seen someone who might totally be someone who does this former Charlie before entering for any mission of the payment of the I'm looking before taking up the mission to basically catch up Hancock Kobe might have studied about all the moves and all the information the Navy especially because Hancock used to be a warlord definitely all the details about Hancock powers and everything might be present in the Navy. So Kobe might have before setting up for this mission Kobe might have thoroughly studied the entirety of not only the personality and character as well as the powers and skills of Hancock. Kobe might have studied all that, done the whole reading and studying of all that, and then only Kobe might have right now showed up to capture Hancock. Definitely, my so might be the precise result for right now. Kobe alone not getting better fight. Definitely, my by Hancock. Definitely, my so I'm saying that right now because Kobe might have not properly looked at might have not properly even right now as the fight between Kobe and Hancock would be taking place. Kobe might not be properly looking at Hancock. It definitely might Kobe would be interacting with Hancock while without taking a proper look at Hancock. Definitely might to prevent Kobe from getting better fight. Definitely might be impression right now with this first kick of Hancock and the spring right now. Kobe not blocking that attack of Hancock, but Kobe with such absolute ease, Kobe will be totally dodging that percentage of Hancock. It's scenario that I'm able to and that whenever the Hancock getting seriously frustrated and I was saying Hancock throwing a bunch of punches and hits at Kobe with each and every single punch and kick by Hancock. Hancock is Kobe dodging each and every single one of them is such absolute ease, the scenario that I'm able to write and then number three Hancock getting fed up and number three Hancock basically about to basically and so that were fighting Hancock and was getting near to one of the better fight Navy soldiers statues the scenario that I'm looking. So at that point Hancock would be totally getting tired and Hancock would be totally have to would be forced to face that reality of the situation that Kobe's hold out from up and Hancock was the scenario that I'm looking. So at that point, Hancock deciding to bring Kobe down by basically Hancock threatening Kobe with destroying one of the certified statue of the Navy soldiers, the scenario that I'm looking. And that would be how I'm looking the whole fight between Hancock and Kobe would be ending from the time being the frame. So with that Kobe and Boston probably giving up and Kobe simply once again politely there will be still that extreme there is still be that extreme power in the side of Kobe's number one would be other thing in Kobe's straight away telling Hancock that basically Kobe will be building Kobe's dropping his mission right now and they will be totally leaving his Hancock basically undoes the petrification of all the soldiers and Hancock doesn't destroy any of the take destroy any of the purpose petrified soldier and basically if Hancock also undo the petrification of all the soldiers Kobe will be straight away leaving Kobe will be giving his word to Hancock at that point of the scenario that I'm notified. So but still at that point Hancock they won't be straight away trusting Kobe. So I'm considering Hancock deciding to undo the petrification of of like maybe more than half of like the Navy soldiers that she had petrified, or like around like half of the Navy soldiers that she had petrified, like she would be like doing the petrification, and she would be including like human folk and those like her and doing the petrification, and her telling Koby to like really leave before she breaks like the petrified Navy soldiers like along the lines like her threatening Koby. And with that, like, I'm like Koby deciding, feeling as if like he has no other choice, and basically Koby deciding to like leave those half of like the Navy soldiers, and basically them deciding to leave, and basically so then like they can like reach Brazil and basically make that move. Like the scenario that I'm looking at, and at that point, like Koby would have like Koby would be deciding to like leave. So like the my referendum from the for like scenario that I'm looking at, like the writers like Koby would be telling him to that like he's leaving, and basically would be like turning back and something. Right then it's about like the Blackbeard versus like the two Seraphim like fights would be like continuing on, and everything like that fight of something, and like basically a boat or something about to fall onto like the Navy petrified Navy. So this is like the scenario that I'm so like Koby like and angry and extremely serious Koby at that point like just a single attack like crushing and turning that huge boulder into like bits of like bits of sand is like the scenario that I'm going. And basically that way Koby saving all the petrified all those section of like petrified Navy soldiers. And then Koby straight away with like a secret space like even though like Koby had multiple times like told like sort of like really the best of the stuff to like basically stop, and they didn't listen like I'm looking at that point like I'm looking Koby looking like extremely serious like, and that's like a serious face like Koby shouting out to like the surface like those two buses of stuff to like just I order you to like stop would be along the lines like Koby is shouting out to them with like a serious face. It's like they kind of like similar to how like Shank had basically like looked at like that mode of in like the very beginning that was like trying to like basically that had taken away Shank's then basically when Shank had basically used his hot and basically looked at that monster that like monster had stopped like I was like in a similar manner like a serious Koby like with like serious eyes and basically with like serious face like a serious Koby like shouting out to like those two possible stuff that like I command you or like I order you to like stop in the along the line Koby will be saying, and on the spot like I'm like those two Pacific just straight away stopping. It's like the scenario. So stopping their fight against like really like scenario that I was doing. So right then itself like I was doing Koby and like half of those Navy soldiers along with those two Pacific stuff like straight away leaving. And I was bring like Blackbeard right then would be it was only at that point like at that point Blackbeard itself was only shocked by like Koby like basically like that seriousness of Koby, and like really instantly that Koby's order like stopping like the like personal and all that like so Blackbeard straight away would be like also shocked and seeing like literally two of us like crew members like they already being in like a better fight stage. Like certainly Hancock won't be undoing like the better of like those two members of like so like I was like at that point like Blackbeard telling like Hancock to to basically join like to undo first undo straight away not even caring about to members, and like straight away telling Hancock to like basically to join like the Blackbeard fire like basically Blackbeard trying to like trick Hancock into like basically Blackbeard telling would be telling Hancock that basically Hancock stays here in like Amazon, especially the Navy will be returning back to like capture Hancock, and basically eventually Hancock would be getting captured like by the Navy. So like instead like join like the Blackbeard pirates so that like Hancock would be like safe. Will be along the lines of like Blackbeard like attempting a strategy to like get Hancock to like join like, the Blackbeard pirates is like the scenario that I'm looking like. But like that way to have like Hancock's like powerful level power be within like the Blackbeard pirate group is definitely I'm looking at that point like really attempting but like Hancock straight away saying rejecting like that offer of like Blackbeard, and basically at that point Hancock failing Blackbeard to like leave with like still remembers before Hancock changes of mind and basically that like destroy like the stone structure of like the petrified destroys like the petrified super members of like Blackbeard will be around the line Hancock will be threatening Blackbeard at that point. It's like the scenario that I'm looking at. So like at that point, I'm looking like Blackbeard getting extremely angry and like seriously getting to like ego up. Like since like Blackbeard is like an emperor of sea, like amazingly like an ex warlord, like Hancock straight away would be ordering like Blackbeard to like basically straight away leave before mood changes and basically she destroys like the better by statue of like Blackbeard to pro members. It would be along the lines of the threat that Hancock at that point like needing to like Blackbeard and extremely enraged like Blackbeard still reluctantly like really like using his like shadow powers like dark powers to like basically carry those two better statues of like his two pro members and like Blackbeard deciding to like leave and that way like Koby and like the half of the Navy soldier leaving like the Amazon Lily as well as like Black Red as well as two of them, like crew members as well, like Red Five crew members like as well leaving like Amazon Lily for the time being like the scenario that Amazon only for Amazon Ember. Okay, so like the Victory Ember right now with like Black Red right now capturing like 400 and basically Black Red right now trying to like steal away like hands of like and like those four powers like I'm looking for like remember the Ember right now is definitely for like Kobe right now who's like standing who's like sitting right there in front of like Blackbeard as well as Hancock like Kobe right now who is stopping Blackbeard's like that I was saying and I'm looking for like Hancock from mid air like from the top is like jumping the perfume kick towards like Kobe at that point for Kobe being like extremely worried and really Kobe even saying that like he can't dodge precisely because of like all those like Navy soldier statues that's like surrounding Kobe at that specified Navy soldier statues that's like surrounding Kobe at that point. It's definitely my difference because like during that point as like Hancock was about to like kick Kobe had dodged like basically Kobe from Kobe's point of view Kobe would only think that basically if Kobe had dodged that kick of Hancock's like basically Kobe might have been easily able to like dodge Hancock's like cartoon kick attack but still if Kobe stopped that basically Hancock would be landing on all those petrified Navy soldier statues that would be causing that all those Navy soldier statues to like get destroyed and that way all those Navy soldiers to like die so this is concern will be the sole reason for like Kobe even saying that basically no two can't dodge while like Hancock perfume kick was about to land her kick on Kobe. It's definitely my good damage. So like definitely Kobe would be so rich that he is strong. It's definitely my good damage that I'm stepping onto. So like right now as like Blackbeard totally feels victorious like him having captured like Hancock and basically him about to with like right now him about to take Hancock like steal Hancock's like levels for power. Like right now just I'm also like Kobe only bringing out like there understand there definitely would be that absolute reason for like Kobe right now having like the name Kobe the hero. It's definitely about the things like Gap for like about the like definitely a lot of like Gap powers like Gap by now and trained Kobe to be able to like achieve. So like I'm considering with that and I'm also so like Kobe would be having such extremely powerful athlete. It's definitely my considering with that athlete or like I'm considering right now Kobe stopping Blackbeard like the scenario that I'm considering and Blackbeard will be totally shocked. And I'm also like just like I'm considering Kobe maybe like holding Blackbeard and basically Blackbeard totally be shocked by the intense athlete from that will be coming from Kobe at that point, like the scenario that I'm looking at straight away causing like Blackbeard to like drop hand drop at that point, causing Blackbeard to drop hand drop is like the scenario that I'm looking. That way Kobe saving hand drop right now is like the scenario that I'm looking. And straight away like Blackbeard using his like other arm would be like about to attack Kobe with the white beards like from a force power. But like and at that point I was like Kobe like still not maybe not being faced and like Kobe like about to or like I'm looking at that point Kobe being afraid, like basically, even though no matter how strong Kobe would be, like the Seraphim so power of white beard would be so definitely even more stronger than like Kobe would be totally afraid as like Blackbeard using his other arm would be about to attack Kobe using that attack of white beard. So like at that point I'm referring like those two pacifist like basically attacking like from both sides like really should be showing up and attacking Blackbeard at that point is like the scenario that I'm that way like Blackbeard not being able to like launch his like attack so like I'm looking right then itself like back there like Kobe most likely falling down and basically straight away like Kobe that basically stopping back Blackbeard at that point is that scenario that I was Kobe telling Blackbeard that like the fight is over. It's like the scenario that I'm looking that way Blackbeard getting defeated by Kobe. This is like the scenario that I'm looking for. But like I'm looking right then itself like Hancock starting to speak at that point and like telling Hancock at that point telling Kobe that no, it's like I decide when it's over and basically Hancock like telling Kobe to like basically and Blackbeard both of them to like basically leave before like Hancock like basically destroyed like all the petrified statues of like the people close to them. Blackbeard crew members as well as like Koby's like Navy soldiers. Like, so like with that threat, like ambassador like Koby as well as like Blackbeard as well as like Hancock would be like undoing like the creation of like a bunch of like the Navy soldiers, but not the entirety of the Navy soldiers. So like Koby with this Navy soldiers as well as like Blackbeard has like prepared to number like DJ. Just like the scenario that ambassador bringing okay, so like definitely on the Korean production right now, as for like even while right now, like as like Blackbeard is like about to steal like Hancock's like also powers and basically Hancock is like totally caught and like basically in such extreme critically dangerous situation. Like even right now, like basically among like the female army of like Hancock, like basically one of like the woman like basically smiling even in such a critical situation that Hancock is with in like basically still one of like Hancock's like army so female soldier like basically smiling during this such a critical moment. I was bring would be most likely due to that female member of like Hancock like army most likely having eaten like a devil fruit in like the past. So like about the particularly that woman and she might have it was like Hancock was like in fact one the person of like I'm back then like I'm she too the day during back then like when really had basically lost like the freedom of like all of like innocent people including hands of like basically it might be during that like like this female remember like female soldier as well who's like right now in like hands of army like basically her as well might have gotten freed back then especially remember and she might have been forcefully fed that like smile proof back then so like my Victorian was like maybe like the government might have created like this point group. So like I'm like definitely like since like while Hancock and all of like these women might have been like back in like the distant past might have been was like in person like basically back then like the reform might have already done all of the experiments and basically that might be the reason for like the participants right now, these two participants right now having like the same hearing as that of Hancock, as well as like that it might be back then by hands of and like a bunch of women who were important back then, like Amazon like were prayed by really like before really praying them like Amazon like one of one of the women might have been totally bad like this might by backup punch is definitely what might have happened, and this will be the potential reason for like that single female soldier member, in like hand of like present army, like basically would be like such a reason for her alone, like smiling while like hand is in such a dangerous situation, such a person with like her being captured by Blackbeard. Is definitely not the or is the like the children of Korean version right now for like Bosnian to fight not telling Blackbeard as for like duties was like required for like her powers to like work like basically that alone I'm considering like Hancock would be saying the truth about the rest would be like Hancock portrays fluffing to like get himself out of like this like tough situation that he's in. It's definitely my motivation. Like definitely my motivation that like exceptional duty on the levels of that of like Hancock would be what are required for like her like instant turning into stone power to like literally uh, arrow power, like instant turning into stone powers to like what that exceptional levels of beauty as that of like Hancock would be what like would be like a key factor, key necessary factor that would be required for that powers to be able to like work and be performed. It's definitely my 300%, but like on like a whole group of masters, it's definitely my 300%. So like I'm going still I'm like the remaining that like Hancock right now face to like back there will be an absolute light and a bluff because neither the impressions are like the part of hand right now says Blackbeard about like basically even if like Blackbeard take a hand of life and steal hand of like Devil Fruit still like that person who gains that the new person who gains like that Devil Fruit power won't be able to like undo the better page and that is like hand of right now how told Blackbeard would be an absolute lie and would be an absolute bluff. So definitely my personal opinion, just so that like Blackbeard won't be like taking hand of light and basically won't be able to like steal away like Hancock also. And so that like Blackbeard and so that like Hancock would be able to like save herself and only leading to be the ultimate strategical plan of like a hand strategy that like Hancock will be right now using this element of brain. So like if I see because of the reason I'm considering like Blackbeard right now would be like intending on like even though right now but like the situation like the strategy of like Hancock would only work because like both Blackbeard as well as Koby deciding to leave from like I'm from Delhi. Still, I'm considering like Blackbeard would be like right now would have fixed into his mind like. And I was considering Blackbeard would be like even with like a Hancock right now would have probably even more impressed like Blackbeard. with her powers and everything. So like Blackbeard will be like right now desperately wanting Hancock to be part of like some like such a tough like warrior like basically as like warrior fire and emperor like Hancock like emperor right now Blackbeard will be talking wanting her to be part of like the Blackbeard fire. So like Blackbeard will right now totally think that like if he can have like Hancock to join like Blackbeard, so then like Blackbeard so would be like even more way superiorly stronger collectively as a whole. Would be along the line that there would be things. So like with that effort intent to eventually return back and basically to like even if go through force to like abduct like and top and basically eventually like getting her to like listen to Blackbeard to like work with like and to like eventually make her to bribe her somehow into like basically eventually getting hands off to like basically to be part of like the Blackbeard pirates like this intent like Amazon to eventually return back and trying to like once again abduct like hands off Amazon with Blackbeard would be right now with almost rated like would be like leaving like the Amazon Lily. It's like the scenario that I'm doing. And I'm doing the same with like Koby as well, and leaving with like a bunch of like Navy soldiers. Like, they take away with the revision that Hancock won't be like undoing with the restoration of all the Navy soldiers, but like Koby as well, like leaving with like a bunch of Navy soldiers who's like better years and like Hancock will be undoing. Basically, Koby as well, leaving with like intent to like repatriate and make an eventual re-return to like basically to basically Amazon will need to like definitely ensure like some mission to catch up like and progress like the success. It's like the intent that is both to both like Amazon bringing Blackbeard as well as Koby leaving like Amazon Lily like the scenario that Amazon bring and I'm still thinking of Amazon Amazon definitely to protect Amazon Lily and to protect Hancock like Amazon bring at that point like while these two while Koby and the Navy as well as like while Blackbeard leaving like Amazon like into that time gap like I'm looking for Hancock to like make it to like profit proper use by like most likely I'm like Hancock deciding to like protect like herself and Amazon Lily by like leaving Amazon Lily and joining like the cross skill of like Bali. This is like the scenario that I'm looking at and sitting on German different. Also, we don't take the real question about like Edward deal with the strategy. Edward reason I'm looking won't be like what still sounds like I'm looking like the and like the woman who claims to be like we will select another like I'm looking like she as well won't be like the actual mother of like legal system. Remember that we will might be like the abandoned child of like an excessively strong parent. It's definitely my remember. And like my remember is that like relation and there will be a relation between that she is that woman claiming to be like legal mother as well as like Whitebeard, and that relation would be most likely that like both that woman as well as Whitebeard might have been from left might have been abandoned children and they might have been from like the very same orphanage. Definitely my opinion. So like I'm looking like even since back then like Whitebeard as well as that woman were living in the orphanage like even since then like that woman might have had like a massive crush on Whitebeard and might have badly wanted to like actually get married to like Whitebeard, especially on the relation. But like Whitebeard might have even back then itself might have always rejected some proposal. That's definitely what might have happened, especially in the rain person. So from and Whitebeard even since back then like Whitebeard but since White from back in the days of like during the orphanage phase of like Whitebeard might have been living in this like orphanage itself like Whitebeard might have had his like ultimate goal in his life and it might have been for Whitebeard to like have a family. That's definitely my opinion and the reason that Whitebeard like as to like how Whitebeard like view about like family might have been different. It's definitely my opinion because like another thing that for Whitebeard like he might have never wanted to like get married and have a child like in the years of like Whitebeard like he might have only wanted to have sons and daughters like that would be like and to live with them it would be like as like their father like this would be might have been like the ultimate goal and this would be like the idea of like or like the concept of like family for living as a family for like Whitebeard it's definitely not the range. So like Whitebeard might have never wanted to like get married, yet might have wanted to like have kids and with live with a parent might have been like Whitebeard's like ultimate goal. So like I'm looking like after like leaving like the orphanage, like I'm looking like what might have happened would be that after like Whitebeard was old enough to like leave the orphanage. Basically like I saw like what might have happened might have been like basically after like Whitebeard left the orphanage, like that woman might have still followed. So might have she might have been like an extreme stalker. She might have been obsessed with like Whitebeard, and she might have been such an extreme stalker of Whitebeard, and she might have followed Whitebeard, steadily followed Whitebeard around. Even after like the Blackbeard had like left the orphanage, might have been what might have happened. You know, so like I'm thinking, what might have done after like leaving the orphanage, it might have been that like Blackbeard might have been extremely naive. So like I'm thinking back then, Blackbeard might have approached like a bunch of like orphanage with like with the intent to like adopt a child. And basically that also orphanage might have told Whitebeard that basically uh, either like back then like Whitebeard all of those orphanage maybe ambassador might have told Whitebeard that basically that he needs to have the he needs to be married and needs to have like the necessary certificate for Whitebeard to be able to like adopt uh, a child might have been what everyone might have told Whitehead. That way, like and like Whitehead might have tried so much to like basically that way adopt a child, and like all of that Whitehead's attempts might have failed. Definitely, my brother everything. So like I'm said like I'm going to have a family with the intent to like have like a family and like Whitehead might have decided to like break all uh break all the rules and laws and everything. And like like Whitebeard at that point might have been like this idea or like this goal might have been formed within like Whitebeard's mind to like basically to become a pirate and basically so that and basically at that point like Whitebeard will be able to like do as he people might have been along the line that like Whitebeard might have felt and like Whitebeard might have felt that basically that he will become a strong pirate and basically so that like all of his crew members like he could like make all of his crew members that was like son and thought of would be along the line like Whitebeard might have set up such goal in his mind, especially Michael Murray and Hudson. So my other impressions that like that might be how that Whitebeard might have even that desire to become a pirate even might have been formed within Whitebeard. My especially my good friend. It's only so that like that way Whitebeard could like have this like ultimate like ideal family that would be like Whitebeard's like only ultimate goal. Since even back then, it's definitely my good impression. So like another thing what might have happened would be that Whitebeard might have set off to like the seas to like basically to become an exceptionally strong pirate and pirate and basically so like when Whitebeard might have set off to like the sea at that point I'm like that woman who claims to be like evil like mother in like in like basically that woman who might have been obsessed with like Whitebeard and who might have always been stalking and Whitebeard and following Whitebeard around like she might have been gotten so extremely worried and she might have been extremely disappointed because like she since like Whitebeard left to like cease to become a pirate and really she was like she might have totally been extremely disappointed and worried because like she was at that from that point she wasn't able to like follow Whitebeard around and stalk Whitebeard. And it might have been like what like the situation with her might have been definitely not friendly. So like I'm talking like Weevil, like Edward Weevil might have been like a selfish plan, strategical plan, a selfish kind of like a strategical plan of that woman to basically to eventually get Whitebeard to like accept her and so that like she could like live with like Whitebeard in like Whitebeard's like ship pirate ship alone and so that like people will live in their life with their remaining life with Whitebeard. She like she is able to like is able to like give Whitebeard a son through Edward Beagle. And I'm looking like Edward Beagle might have been like just like abandoned child of like an exceptional strong pirate. So like I'm looking like I'm looking like that woman who claims to be Beagle's like mother, like she might have after like Whitebeard might have left to like the things like I'm looking she might have been extremely depressed and disappointed with that her not being able to like see Whitebeard again. That basically I'm looking like one day while she might have been just casually walking around like Amazon at some point, like at some location, like we might have seen like this abandoned church left somewhere. Just like the scenario that I'm going. And at that point, like seeing this abandoned child, like this idea might have been this villanistic kind of like a this kind of idea might have been formed in our mind to like probably to straight away look after take after this child and look after take care of this child so that like we to like only use this child to basically to get up to be accepted to like live with that white beard in that white beard like patch. So like such and such an extremely self-deterministic kind of like a plan might have been formed within like that human mind back then. Might have been what might have happened, especially when the thing is so like she might have like only since then and when she has like in like the distant past when she might have found the evil like evil might have been like an abandoned baby, especially when the friend. So like she might have took care of like the evil and basically with the hopes that basically she would be able to like eventually meet Whitebeard at some point, and at that point, like by generally like straight away, like she will be able to like win by their form of through evil and basically that way she will be able to like finally achieve her ultimate dream of like being able to like live white hair. It might have been like what might have happened in like the past, especially my friend. So like in the friend, with the role like she might have been looking after like and taking care of that evil, and she might have straight away even named the baby like Edward Evil with the name something like Edward Newgate like. So like I was she might have like uh, took care of like the baby and like as like the baby grew up like she might have fed the baby with that absolute life that basically that he was like Whitebeard's own son. Definitely my was impression. So and like she as the baby grew up and basically as had gotten older like she might have like done everything to like basically not only convince him that basically he's like Whitebeard's son but also like feel like partly convinced him that he's like one year quite different, but also like once like have some have that adopted child when when that child was old enough to like zero his steps, like basically even then like he might have straight away even like the whole attire and like the outfit and everything and like the mustache and everything she might have ensured to like make it resemble like weird as much as possible. So like with the, and doing all this with the hope that to like impress Whitebeard, with the hope that she would eventually in the future would be running into Whitebeard at some point. And they would like find Whitebeard at some point and really at that point to like Starley impress Whitebeard with like Edward Weevil. But so we were looking exactly like Whitebeard and on top of that like she wife with the feeding all this lights to like we will like under the like she might be trying to like really like have that scenario where like eventually once like you'll be running into that Whitebeard like at that point to have like we will call him Papa or like Daddy. So that at that point like Whitebeard's like heart would be melting and basically Whitebeard won't be like able to like reject Weevil and basically Whitebeard will just straight away Whitebeard who really want like a family with the straight away accepting Weevil along with along with that woman will be her ultimate plan and goals, especially when the emergency. But like for like usually as time pass like that ultimate goal of her might have eventually totally backfired the plan basically like remember how hard she might have searched for like Whitebeard that basically like even though she might have she definitely was I might have like throughout her life she might have definitely not traveled to the sea searching for Whitebeard but still that she might have always checked like the newspapers to like really see like any like incident that if like the news there's like any news involving like any incident of like Whitebeard like basically like showing up. So like I was very interested that from the remaining of that woman's life, like she might have been really searching for like Whitebeard on land and not the sea because like another thing she might have been like hoping for like basically even though Whitebeard that during then was like a parallel like still at some point like Whitebeard would be like deciding to make a pit stop and for like in some location. So like at that point for her to like be able to like run into Whitebeard or be able to like find Whitebeard to such a manner might have been that absolute hope that she might have had. But like I'm hoping that all that hope might have only backfired with like eventually like her not being able to run into or like find Whitebeard all the way until like even like the one report as well and so but shockingly like when news about white gifts that showed up in the newspaper like at that point that she might have been totally absolutely shocked. Definitely was the reaction. And like I'm looking like, but still I'm looking like by the by traveling with like people and living with people for like so long, like I'm looking like that mother son bond might have been formed like from that woman's side towards like evil living with it. She might have slowly actually started to like see people as a man, not some tool that she could use to like basically live with like white hair or the years of living with strangers. So like that genuine love and concerns towards like freedom might have been mentally confident that the one eventually over the span of like a great number of years might have been what might have happened. So like and looking like even after 5 years the like number he might have been extreme he might have like been extremely sad and it was like still like every time she will be like looking at vision like she will be reminded of that uh memories with like white girl. Like every time she would be like looking at vision she will be reminded of white girl. So like and looking since then like I'm doing after like 5 years because like she might have been extremely enraged because like I'm the different people if like the newspapers if like the Navy might have like changed the news about white bears death by the hands of like Blackbeard into like basically that if like the Navy had basically like taken the credit for like white bears that then probably might have changed the news in like the newspaper into such a manner. Then I'm looking right now in like the position like after like the Marine War had through like the newspapers like I'm looking that woman as well as that might have felt that absolutely grudge towards like the Navy at that point of like scenario that I was like, or like if like the newspapers had basically like putting like the exact news about like it being Blackbeard prior to like that take the life of like white girl. Then I'm the different since then since like the death of like white girl like she might have had that absolute grudge towards like the black fan. So like I'm the point that and that grudge definitely would be also be very much present within like people as well definitely one famous. So like I'm like as well as we will elect the person and the different they will be like their ultimate goal right now in their life will be to like subsequently either get revenge and destroy either the navy or like the Blackbeard pirates. It's definitely never to be like one of these two goals that end up with like that woman as well as we will be like living off their life right now. It is definitely my dream. So like basically that is the impression it's also that basically since like Edward Weevil is like a former warlord and basically he had became like a warlord after like 5 years that during like the 2 year time get my super impression that for like the box gets two possibly like basically the reason for like Weevil becoming like a warlord might have been accepting like the position of like warlord and becoming a warlord might be either if like Weevil and his like mother maybe according to what like people and the would be believing because like if they would be like believing that like it was like the Navy that had taken fighters life then I'm wondering they will be having the grudge towards like the Navy. So like like we will accepting like the warlord position might be with the intent of like we will answer like mother to like that they to have we will like infiltrate into like the Navy to like basically to destroy like the Navy from the tent would be around the such lines of like an extreme war conflict that like we would answer that month of maybe having might have been having back then. There's definitely one possibility that I'm looking or like the other possibility that I'm looking is for like if we will as well as like we will mother knows the truth that it was like black and that had taken the life of white girl. Then like I'm like the Indian behind like accept having we will accept like the warlord position and turning we will into like a warlord like would be precisely to like search for and find and capture like Blackbeard in the name of Navy like simply like they will be getting all the help from like the Navy like to basically even capture pirates like as like a warlord like might have been also along the lines like different Navy like civil as well as like we mother might have thought back then and so like that way to like make things advanced to get that help from like the Navy for them to be able to like capture and bring down and destroy and take the life destroy like the landed by pirates and take to take the life of Blackbeard. Maybe also like the other possible reason that I'm delivering Navy for like we will accepting like the warlord offer from like the Navy during like the 3 year time skip after like white gets it's like the other possibility that I'm delivering another dream. Okay, so like definitely since according to my lecture generation and it's in terms of the role like putting like after like around that had been made it to lifestyle from like the great number of points that nice definitely from the lifestyle like Roger might have learned of like the wind of peace, which would be that in actuality will be like the wind of joy, but which like I'm like that will might have been passed down from joy boy from the world century to his like uh son with hope or even Joy Boy's like actual name, like Joy Boy from the during even his like actual name might have definitely had like the middle initial D in his name. So like I'm looking to the see might have been that exactly like the wins of like Joy Boy from the voice injury. Right before like Tunisia might have totally I don't remember the revolution like Tunisia might have totally done that major crime towards like the I think it was like the end of the voice injury where like Tunisia might have only got impressed by Imo to like they really like into like acting against like Joy Boy into like against Joy Boy and that way like Unica crossing like Joy Boy's step in like the middle of the sea with like Joy Boy drowning. But like I'm right before like Joy Boy might have been about to die like and Joy Boy might have like whether Tunisia himself might have only revealed to like Joy Boy how like they really about like the nature of deal with like to like basically saying Joy was like that like Joy might have been struggling to like basically like get back like Joy might have been struggling to like get back up and basically might have been struggling and might have been drowning and what might have been about to die like at that time Tunisia might have basically revealed to like Joy about that like Joy Boy like prioritizing like the mermaid from over like Tunisia like from the initial partner of Tunisia and like basically like Tunisia maybe even telling Joy Boy at that point like Tunisia not being a thing straight and like Tunisia only telling him of telling Joy Boy that this is like Tunisia's husband and basically like according to like the deal Tunisia made like along the lines like Tunisia might have told Joy Boy and like Joy Boy might have been like having like heartbroken and might have been like drown, struggling and might have been drowned to the select, showing it drowned to the selector. Might have been like the scenario as for what might have happened back towards like the end of words and the reception events and like right before like Joy Boy's death, like and like the will of the like the will of Joy Boy might have been formed and like it might have it was might have passed down his will to that to his son who might have also that then might have definitely had like the initial middle initial in their name, especially when the framework. So like specifically when the framework and the like the will of the will be most likely the will of like the devil because like Inu might have only might have been playing God in like the during like the voice century. So like with like Joy Boy opposing like that Joy Boy might have been all over like the all over like the through like the voice century as like the devil. Definitely might be the impression. So like I'm looking like definitely that wish that might have been passed down by Joy Boy towards like the end of it, the voice century right before Joy Boy might have died like from the visitors like that will might have been like passed down might have been get gotten passed down for like 820 years into like basically right now the will being passed down all the way towards like reaching Luffy and that way like Luffy finally will be like the term of joy by happening and might be like everything that will be happening right now, especially when the Korean picture so happening right now and what might have happened in the past, especially when it's transition. So like my Korean picture is for like a Roger, like basically in the case of a Roger, definitely I'm looking for like but like it might be after like a Roger thing like the one just in last say like learning properly learning of like the wind of the that I'm looking like a Roger might have after like returning from last say like a Roger so like around at that point was like the end of the like journey since like was race about to like and so that might have uh realized that basically things like since we can't be but like it's we won't be able to like survive for 20 years like Rosa might have started to like uh basically to pass down like his skill like so basically at that point Rosa wanted to like Rosa might have also realized that basically gold digger or the initial in the same thing like in fact like the descendant of like the long line of descendant of like the Joy from like the Joy Center. So like Rosa might have wanted to like pass down the wing of Joy Boy to from like the Joy Center to his son. So like I was saying that Rosa after returning from April might have decided to like get married to like someone with like another initial in the name, and basically that way like Roger might have found like what kind of street right, and Roger at that point might have that way decided to like basically before Roger price like Roger might have planned to like basically have a son and basically give him as well as like the initial thing and basically that way to like pass on to like the will of joy by through Roger to his son. And Roger might have absolutely and constantly believed that like his son in like 20 years will be like the son will be ending up being like the chosen one, and basically the son of joy will be happening to that his son of identity is might have been what like Roger might have confidently believed is the Cleveland difference. And yet like I was like after like having is like still I was like Roger might have also considered like the possibility of like Roger's expectations like going along and exactly like how like exactly like so that Roger in his life as well like might have never expected like for like Roger to like have that terminal illness like and this like since like Roger as well might have not expected that, and like from Roger's point of view like finding like the one piece in like last time like basically like Roger at that point might have totally might have felt that basically if like if only Roger didn't have that terminal illness, like a Roger could, like at that point, like just like so, like will after like and just so like such information like the ground phone just will after like maybe only at that point that Roger might have learned of like the importance of like rhythm of book and so like the joy from like the voice and right having like the power of like the weight and power of like the rhythm of book and that being like the strong self book and all that. So like and also like Roger might have after like gaining like the information from that and Roger might have already felt that this if only Roger didn't have like uh, that terminal illness that Roger could have like basically found like eventually found like and got the plans on like the government road and basically that way Roger could have in 20 years like Roger could have built on for like 20 more years and basically in 20 years like Roger could have become like the return of Joe but could have happened to like Roger. Might have been what Roger might have felt, but also at that point, like Roger might have also realized that, like, so it might be solely with like Roger not being like the chosen one for like a Joy uh, like for like joy goes to return like since like for the not being in the chosen one will be like the best reason for like especially since like exactly during that like basically it was Shank that was like wearing like the smoke at during that time, and since like Shank slightly even ending up not due to like buggy feeling unwell like Shank coincidentally precisely not ending up showing up to like love along like a Rosa like or it would be playing out as part of like the plan of like the universe or like the world to be along the lines like Roger might have felt like so like I'm even Roger at that point it might have only realized that it is like might have only felt that things and doesn't I have like study needed initially in its place like definitely stand even though right now like the during that time like the stock has might have been was the like chance still Roger might have completely felt that like still chance won't be ending up being like the return of gold by won't definitely have happening through chance and basically the so like Roger might have at that point felt that it really that it could be most likely constantly felt that it would be most likely like Roger should have a son and they really would be show his son that like the return of Joy might be happening. Might have been that what Roger might have confidently felt. So like after like having a like still and like as like Roger like as might have been getting even just like at the end Roger might have only felt that he was like the way he was like he had reached towards like the very end of his journey. So like at that point Roger might have decided to that that basically Roger might have also considered like the possibilities like in the Roger's like thing, even though exactly according to like what Roger's plans, like Roger might have also considered like the worst case scenario where like basically when the Roger at that point might have been confidently hoping for like actually for his son is to like in 20 years to see like the next Joy Boy like Roger might have also considered and foreseen like the worst case scenario as well from Roger's point of view where like Ace eventually ends up is exactly like around the place as well ends up not being like the chosen one and basically like the chosen one should be like the next Joy Boy ending up being someone that's not being achieved into gear. Like the video might have also considered such a worst case scenario as well. And the way to be solely to like Roger considers this worst case scenario that like Roger might have straight away decided to basically before he died to like basically to want to get himself get captured by like, the Navy so that like during that with Roger might have only expected that since like Roger by then had made it to like fighting with 1% becoming with the thing of the fire, like definitely Roger's execution would be like huge event and would be like broadcast all throughout like the world and like a huge crowd will be showing up for like Roger's execution. So like so totally take advantage of such a scenario and like such a situation like to basically spread like the will of the like the will of like joy by from like the void century towards like the rest of like the world so that like all of like the people out there with like who are like descendants of joy by on the void century so that like all among like all the people out there with like similarly Mr. D in their name would be like all the rodeos like pass down like the business pass down like the bill of the towards all of them through that whole the announcement of like wealth chain and power in like the beginning and basically all the even announcing to like the huge crowd as well as like to like the stuff that go such like all the festivals and the orchestra and all that like it's like all the like basically the film might have been broken so sort of so like basically so the that way might have been like basically that execution of like Roger might have been actually a Roger Frank like the wind of the to like basically to everyone out there with like the initial in their name all across the world so that like definitely that chosen one definitely the chosen one with like the initial in the name like if like the worst case scenario ends up being true and basically if like if doesn't ends up being like the chosen one and being like the next year boy in like 20 years then like the chosen one will be able to like know of like the one gift so that like the bill of fee will be passing down to like the chosen one without any mistakes to do that like to ensure that happens like chosen might have like basically announced about like the one piece and one piece to like the corrupt of the world at that point. Like Corey is like executed with that conscious intent to like pass down like the industry and like I'm just like that way like eventually like the like time basically revealing all those like worst case scenarios like the worst possibility like ending up being sort of like basically Luffy being that chosen one with like the middle initial T in his name and like not Ace and with like Ace that way dying in like the war and Mario squad because of like Ace not being that chosen one and being and because of like Luffy being the chosen one. Luffy surviving like the war and Mario squad when Ace dying and like right now in like the person Luffy ending up being like the return of like Joy Boy happening through Luffy and basically, I'm also thinking that Luffy might have became like the chosen one, like and I mean that Luffy might have became like the chosen one at the moment Luffy had taken like the Gumbo through back back while Luffy was like a child itself that basically Luffy might have already became like the chosen one like the moment Luffy had a taken like the Gumbo through or like I was like when Luffy might have been born itself like Luffy might have became like the chosen one and that might be the reason for like the Gumbo eventually exactly ending up with like Luffy hitting this Luffy exactly ending up being the person to like he that I'm also eventually acted as the end all that is definitely my person to read and punch. So like my doctor person as for like the skill of the that like Joy Boy as like who might have been drowning due to like Tunisia and basically as like Joy Boy was like nearing to death while drowning like basically might be precisely at that point that Joy Boy might have from the goals and they might have passed down just like wind of the to the like children and basically that bit of the exactly after like what that bit of thing will be to like basically for like the fraction of like that might have been what might have been present within that will of these that like they might have passed down to the end of like the voice century to the like so because like I'm looking like even in like the voice century Goldberg might have been like if the awakened come improved power, like those guys might have been so exceptionally strong that like no matter what Emo tried to like Emo might have tried multiple times to like bring down Joe and take Joe's life, but like all that multiple attempts might have pointlessly repeatedly failed the lead for Emo certainly never the reaction. And Joe might have been so exceptionally awkward and stronger than that is Joe could have like really correct and take the life of at any moment Joe wanted if Joy Boy wanted that. But like I'm saying, it might have been solely due to like Joy Boy being like an extremely empathetic character that and like even while Joy Boy had recognized image like Williams and like Joy Boy might have not wanted to like take like definitely not different. So, like Joy Boy might have been like consistently like destroying like like villains, six plans and putting all the personas of that might have been only one like Koby might have been doing that doing like the voice and but like there might have been definitely that like that absolute like there might have been like certain element of like extreme kind of like an innocent and naiveness within like Koby, which might have been what like eventually you might have taken advantage of like through Tunisia by tracking Tunisia and Tunisia felt that might had like might have only had that thinking sense of that of like Koby, which might have been like eventually taken advantage of like by Imo so that veteran Tunisia against like Joy Boys and who of like from and that way into something like Tunisia punishing that crime towards the end of like, the white and brothers taking Joy Boys like might have been what might have happened in that different parts is definitely never brain. So like I'm different that until then like Joy Boy might have only not wanted to like really to destroy but like I'm different like with like Joy Boy as Joy Boy might have been drowning due to like Tunisia like at that point like Joy Boy I just suddenly realized that really that before all Timo's doing that Timo has made his like partner with that's friend like Tunisia that commits such a heinous crime of like shaking trying to take his life and basically like all that like when Joy Boy might have realized that basically that Tunisia got impressed by Timo like basically that at that point, like Joyboy might have been extremely embraced, like and like Joyboy might have it will be only at that point that that absolute disaster might have been formed within Joyboy to like to definitely destroy Inu and like that disaster, that absolute disaster might have been what might have been passed down by Joyboy to the like has like the wind of the right before his death. Joyboy's death was definitely what might have happened the second one of the French. So like this might be like the wind of tea that might have passed down since like way back since for like the past 820 years and as of right now through Roger through Ace has right now reached Lucy right now definitely I don't remember so like that will of the that will be like right now present within Lucy like I'm thinking like that Lucy be aware of that will of the and the like eventually happening only once like in like the natural manner like basically once like Lucy would be like eventually making it towards Laughter and finding like the one piece like through problem like reading like the contents of like the all the great number of conflicts in that way like at that point it could be at that point that like Luffy and the Scorpion will be like talking and realizing whom the true enemies are and like whom the true heroes were about like the voice and about like Joy from like the voice and about like Luffy being like about like the Luffy being like the return of like Joy and all that like about like the will of the about the will of Joy about like that will of Joy to like destroy that passed down over all the generation and has the right now reached that movie that like and is like the ultimate villain that they believe that Luffy just like they believe have that ultimate goal to like basically like to like just like at that point that like Luffy finally having found like the one piece like Luffy realizing that his goal doesn't like the dream doesn't end there but like his like dream would be only achievable because like since like Luffy's ultimate goal to find like the one piece was clear to like Luffy wanting to be like the freest person in like the world. Like basically, by the time Luffy was finding like the one piece and like Luffy realizing that like Luffy shouldn't selfishly want to be like the freest person for himself alone. That like Luffy should like be able to like provide that absolute freedom to like the rest of the world as well. And he wants for Luffy to be able to like do that. Luffy should like Luffy should like achieve like the win of like Joy Boy from like the White Century by destroying and basically Luffy strongly having all the like Luffy and the Sword had go like having all the shocking realizations so like the point is that will be in left and once they will be fighting that one piece like in the scenario that and not the real.